Okay.
Oh, great. This is a regular monthly meeting of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission being held electronically via Zoom on September 18th, 2023 at 4 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place and agenda of this meeting has been transmitted to the Princeton Packet, the Town Topics, the Times, the Trentonian, and by filing a clerk with Princeton, who has posted it to the municipal website, www.princetonNJ.gov/meetings. Elizabeth, do you want to take the roll call?
Of course. Hold on, sorry.
Just read it off your screen. I think we're all here.
Miss Satterfield,
Here.
Mr. Shatskin, coming. Ms. Howard,
On a honeymoon.
Oh, yeah.
okay. Mr. Pyle,
Here.
Mr. Endersby,
Here.
Ms. Lewandowski,
Here.
Ms. Friedman,
Here.
Mr. Shore,
For the moment, I'm here.
Ms. Capizzoli.
I'm here.
Great.
I just want to thank everybody for coming last week to the retreat. You know, I thought it was time well spent. I thought it was really nice to see each other in person. And I'm hoping we can figure out some kind of hybrid thing for the holidays so that we could have our Christmas party and do our meeting. So maybe we'll let you know. We'll try to figure something out. But looking forward to being back in person at some point. So thanks to everybody, especially Ed, for helping us work through all of our issues. And it was a really, really great idea. So thank you, Elizabeth. I also wanted to commend the master plan committee. Wow, that's a ton of work. And I thought your memo was great. I am so impressed with the element draft. It's really impressive and a huge contribution. So Roger, I'm just thanking everybody for the master plan work. So we're going to talk about that later, I think. We might talk about it sooner. Let's see, we do have minutes. Tom.
Yes, Madam Chairman, if you don't mind, I unfortunately am double booked for the last half of this and have to be moving out for a 6 o'clock meeting that I'm chairing elsewhere. I just want to be available for any quorum requiring votes that I can sit in for, if that is a factor before I have to leave.
I mean, I don't think we have a problem with the quorum. So if you want to, hang around for
No, I'm definitely hanging with you. I'm going to hang with you until the last possible minute.
Okay, great. That's
And
wonderful.
I have a meeting at 7.
Okay. Well, we are gonna shoot for like efficiency here.
Whoa.
So speaking of efficient, let's just go over those March 20th minutes. Are there any changes or corrections, Christine?
Yes, I have several. On page 2, first paragraph, 3rd line, makes a difference in Y. In should be deleted. And
Wait a
then,
minute, I'm sorry. Oh, could you say that? Oh, difference Y. Okay.
and then on page 3, under applications where it says postpone, it should be postponed.
Correct.
Yes, tense. On the same page, 4th paragraph up, Ms. Kin presented on the last line, it says she stated that the proposed improvement and addition, it should be were appropriate.
I'm sorry, where's that, Christine?
The 4th paragraph from the bottom.
Okay,
last sentence. It should be a plural plural verb.
which line was that on the third paragraph in the bottom?
Fourth from the bottom. She stated that the proposed improvement and addition were appropriate.
Okay, I see it.
And then on page 4, okay, in the second paragraph, it refers to the DPW building. And we know what DPW is, but
Mhm.
not everybody does. And when the public reads this, they may not know, or even an individual, may not read it. So it should, for its first use,
Yeah.
say Department of Public Works, and in parentheses, DPW, end of parentheses, and that would be the first and last time it needs to be in it that way, because then the public knows when it's referred to DPW that it isn't what it means. And you got that one? And then just going, and that might be it.
All right, thank you. Are there,
One second, let me just.
oh, one more?
It says Ms. Kim asked about this,
What
oh,
page,
sorry,
Christine?
page 7.
Okay, hold on. Yep, go ahead.
Third paragraph, first sentence. It says, Ms. Kim asked about the meeting regarding the redevelopment of the Princeton Theological Seminary, which she arrived near the end. Now, I don't know what that sentence means.
I think it's probably supposed to mean that I arrived at the end of that meeting, so I was asking
Oh, okay.
about what happened.
Well, that should be made clear.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right, are there other corrections, changes to the minutes from March 20th this year, 2023? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections?
Yes.
Yes, Christine,
I move to approve with corrections.
thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, David. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. All right, thank you. All right, moving on. We have our first application, which is 66 Lee Avenue. Are there applicants in the attendee area?
So I'm going to ask, I know that this application is for the owner, Ming Ping, and I don't see her name or her email, so there is a phone number there. If you are in the public, can you please put on your electronic hand so we know it's you and we can bring you over? Because right now, I don't see her name here. Just gonna see if I can find a phone. That is her. I just looked it up on her application, so I'm gonna bring her over.
Okay,
Let's see. Charlotte, can you see if you could bring her over? She's the one that has the phone number ending in 1863. For some reason, I can't do it. If you just click on her, if you go to attendees and see the phone number there, and then on the right, you should be able to click on to promote her, but my computer's not letting me do it today.
I'm sorry, it ends in 1863?
Yes.
Okay, so if I just do allow to talk?
No, you got to bring her over. So if you click on the right, there's like 3 dots. You usually can say promote to panelists, but mine only says remove, name, and remove.
That's all mine says.
Oh, gosh.
Maybe you can't remove, maybe when you're just doing a phone call, you can't make that person a panelist?
Oh, yes. I think that you are right, Julie. Let me see if I can, because I'm gonna see if I do someone else. Yes. Ming Ping, if you are able to join in on a computer, Madam Chair, can we take the next applicant and circle back to her to allow her opportunity to join back on? With the-
Absolutely.
with the-
Okay,
you can also join on your phone, but just not with your phone number. You have to click onto the link, which was the link that was in the agenda. So let's see.
all right.
I'm gonna see if I can't, I'm gonna let her talk just so we can, so we know that she understands.
Okay,
Looks like she's muted.
Yeah, I asked her to unmute. Ming Ping, if you could unmute yourself so you can talk to us. I just want to make sure you understand what we need.
and how, yeah, maybe do you know how to do it on a phone? Is it like *6 or something?
What?
To unmute on a phone?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I've only
well,
joined on the phone with the link, but not just dialing in. I apologize. Oh, there's like a little something there. If you look on where it says attendees, there's a little leaf. What's that mean?
I don't know, but I do know that I think she would need to have a visual for
Yeah,
appearing on our
right,
commission meetings. So she has to somehow either download the app or get on a computer.
right. But you can also use your phone. I've done it where you can use your
Yeah.
phone. You can.
But I think you have to go through the Zoom app,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ming Ping, if you could try to do that, if you could, you either connect to the link that was sent to you on the agenda, or you can also go to the website, but probably the agenda is probably the easiest, the one that you had received, and then either join that with your phone or a tablet or your computer. And the chair has said that she will move on to the second application to give you an opportunity to do that and then come back.
All right. Thank you. All right. So we're moving on to 28 Edge Hill Street.
Okay.
Do
Let me-
we have
Yes.
who's
So I'm going to bring the attorney Ryan Kennedy and also the applicant. I think he gave me a list of who he has coming today. Where is his list? Let's see. I don't know why he's not.
and just to remind everyone, I believe we heard this concept review in April. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Brian, you know what's funny? I had a message saying that you declined to be promoted to panelist. I know. Let me see, who else do we have here that's coming
We should
on?
have our
Lou?
architect, Jeff, and the homeowners,
Lou.
Lou and Jackie. Let me see if I can see whether they're on together. I should be able to see them from the list here.
I see Lou.
And I see Jackie as well.
Is that JACQUI?
Correct.
Okay, yes. Okay, so I think I have all three of them.
Oh, and I see Jeff. Excellent.
Great. So if everybody's here,
Oh,
maybe,
okay, sorry.
I know you're busy, Elizabeth, but when you're ready, if you want to just quickly go over your report, that would be great.
Yes, of course, Madam Chair. Okay, so the applicant, Louis Hazu and Jacqueline Dilio has, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, has filed an application pursuant to the Princeton Land Use Code to raise the front roof, which requires variances. And other improvements to the house in their application include a rear dormer, a two-story rear addition, a covered front entry porch, and window replacements, alterations, and removals. The property has the address of 28 Edge Hill Street and is situated on the west side of that street. It's further identified on the Princeton tax map as block 36.01, lot 12, and is in the R1 zone of the former borough. This application is in the jurisdiction of the zoning board, which HPC serves as advisory to, and as always, there's a memo that's issued from the chair, and it is represented at the zoning board meeting. As Ms. Capozzoli had stated, that the applicant came in for a concept review on April 17th, 2023, and now they are returning with their formal application. The necessity to demolish parts of the existing roof and attic walls are needed to raise the roof and construct the rear addition. In accordance to section 10B-380, section 5B, and also section 10B-390 of the municipal land use ordinance, which requires demolition requirements. Mr. Schmier, HBC attorney, has reviewed all the material that was submitted, and he advised that everything is in order for HPC to hear this application. Just so you know, at the end of the review of the project, I think that the north and south elevation of the drawings are reversed. I could be wrong because, you know, my mind was going a little crazy. But I do reference it according to what was on the drawings, just for consistency. So the architect might come on and say, oh, she's nuts, but, you know, let's see what happens. So the property is situated on the locally designated Mercer Hill Historic District in a neighborhood of residential and Princeton Seminary properties. Its historic overlay district is designated as type 2, as everyone knows. That is recognized for any visible changes or alterations from the public right-of-way. The property is also recognized in the State and National Register of Historic Places as Princeton's Historic District. The lot is about 1/4 acres in size. The property sits on a narrow lot, which is not uncommon in this neighborhood. The house is 2.5 stories. It's a wood frame with wood clapboard siding, and the trim is white. There are 3 distinct blocks that you can see on this house. There's a street facing block, which is rectangular and about 2.5 stories. There's the middle block, which is 2-story, and it's a deeper section. And then there's a smaller rear block. The house is 3-bay with fenestration symmetrically positioned and aligned between floors. And the symmetry is continued on the south elevation. And there have been alterations to the north elevation and the the north and the other side elevation. So that symmetry is not as present as on the other 2. The house is a cross gable asphalt roof with a side facing gable to the street. The current house has black shutters that frame the windows on the east and south elevations and fewer on the north and west, again, because of the changes that appeared on those elevations. The front door is positioned on the left end of the building with pilasters and transoms surrounding the entry door. There are wrought iron railings and brick steps to the front stoop. There are panel shutters that are on the first floor and louver ones on the second. The house has some claims that it was constructed in 1835, which it may have been. In researching the Sanborn map, only goes to 1906, which is the first mapping in that neighborhood. And at that time, the property is shown on there. So the proposed application, as most of you know from the concept review, the applicant wishes to expand the attic space in the 2.5-story section, which is the first block of the house, by raising the attic roof and adding a rear shed dormer. Portions of the existing exterior wall and roof require demolition to expand this attic area. Further, there is a 2-story rear addition, which will be constructed off the back of the building with a new rear entrance. Additional changes, alterations to the house is they're going to construct a new covered entry porch, which will have a flat metal roof in gray. They'll have some new cove molding. They will have 2 8-inch fluted columns, which are going to match the pilasters that surround the entrance. They are going to replace the stair treads and landing with new bluestone. The roof is proposed to be GAF timberline in the ultra high definition shingles, and it'll be in the charcoal color, which is proposed to match existing color. The siding will be timberline horizontal clapboard and will match the existing house profile and exposure. Trim, shutters, and siding colors will also match existing colors on the house. Window replacements that for windows that are to remain will be replaced with Marvin wood windows, and they are proposed to match existing as well. Other windows that are being replaced will either be double or triple windows. And then they have also provided a detail of an Ambrose flush mount light fixture, which I assume is for the new front entry and perhaps also for the new back porch. As far as zoning goes, the zoning officer provided a memorandum, which is June 29, 2013, which was attached to the report. And he does state that the subject lot comes with some existing bulk schedule nonconformities for lot area and lot width. There are also some existing noncompliance that are for the combined side yard setback and height to setback ratio, which will be increasing on both sides with the raised roof. So the raised roof obviously has a C variance, and because of the increase in height, that will worsen their existing noncompliance. So just to move to the comments and recommendations, obviously in the beginning part of this, you can see what the criteria are for review for this application. The street facing roof that's proposed to be raised will be increased by 1.82 feet, just for the reference of what the difference is going to be. The architectural drawings seem to imply that there is a stretch of the ridge roof from the middle block to the end block that'll be raised about 1 feet. It doesn't specifically state there on the drawings, but it was in the shaded area. So I'm just going to ask the applicant to confirm and kind of talk about that. The existing windows to remain are proposed to be replaced by Marvin wood windows, as already discussed. And the applicant is asked if there is an opportunity for these windows to be repaired instead of replaced. During concept review, there was a comment about a window that was going to be removed, to perhaps consider closing the shutters on that window and permanently closing off the window from the interior for the function that's needed. So just to bring that back up and see if the applicant can address that as well. And that's all I have, Madam Chair, and I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you. I just want to turn it over to the applicant, and then we can hear an update from what we heard at the concept review. Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Elizabeth, Ryan Kennedy from Stevens and Lee for the applicants tonight, 28 Edge Hill. We do have Lou and Jackie here tonight, the two homeowners working on this project, as well as our architect. As Elizabeth said, and maybe most of you remember from April, this is a tight street with narrow lots where everything, and we'll show you a slide where basically half the house is in the side yard setback. So really anything that you do there will essentially require the existing height to setback or setback ratio, setback variance to be rekindled. The rear addition, as well as the dormer that we're doing, do respect that, but by doing anything to the front porch as well, it brings us not so much here, but to the zoning board for a variance, unfortunately, which is just the recipe for all of these undersized lots on Edge Hill. I'd like to briefly introduce our two homeowners, just to reintroduce themselves and give us just a few words about their project and their connection to Princeton and excitement to kind of get this underway. So Lou and Jackie.
Need to unmute first. Good afternoon, and thank you to all the committee members. We remember being here in April, and just to bring you back to, did you put your mute off? Okay, got a little echo, sorry. We're in the same room, so just to remind you of our circumstances, we are Belmead residents in Montgomery, empty nesters who finally have found a spot in Princeton that we just really fell in love with and wanted to have our retirement years in, so to speak. So we're looking forward to what this house can be for us. We learned a little bit about this house when we purchased it. We purchased it from an estate. It was held in the Dickinson Dale family for about 80 years, I believe, since around the early part of the 40s, in 1940. There's a book, I remember mentioning it to you in April, that was written by a Princeton professor who did a lot of land work in Princeton named Gerald Brees. And it's called Footprints of Edge Hill Street. And it's all about his historical work on the entire street. It's a short street. It goes only from Mercer to Stockton. So it's a short street. The Theological Seminary is on one side with a couple of other private homes. And then our home is on the opposite side of the street. But it does talk about 28 Edge Hill a little bit. And it does say that it was believed to have been built in 1830s or thereabout, but originally on Mercer Street, and moved in the late 1800s. And they think also that it was originally two structures that were put together when it was brought to Edge Hill Street. So that's why the architecture is a little convoluted. It kind of goes one way in the front part and another way in the back part. But it's lovely. We think we can make it work for us. And so we're excited to move forward, and we hope you approve of our changes. If you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Mhm.
With that, I'll ask Jeff, our architect, to unmute himself, and if it's okay, I'd like to share my screen with pieces of the plans and other exhibits that we've put together into a PowerPoint. Jeff, I know you've been before this board many times, and I don't know if there's any real need, but if you want to just quickly reintroduce yourself and your experience to the board, I know they know you quite well.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Jeff Fleischer, Jeff Fleischer Architects. Had my practice for 27 years now. I've done several applications in Princeton, and I have a bachelor's of architecture. I'm licensed in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware.
Right,
Well,
thank you.
And that gave me some time to put the correct slides up. That I briefly showed the ones for the next application, which Jeff will also be testifying on. But Jeff, here we've got on the left here, an existing photo of the house, and on the right, of elevation of what this will look like with the front portico. And just to allay anyone's concerns, as we'll show you later, there is a slight change to the front roof line, but one that you'll see is completely imperceptible. This is not meant to show a flat roof to a tall roof. You'll see later on a pitch roof that you cannot see to a slightly different pitch roof that you cannot see. Jeff, I believe that blue is the where we are on Edge Hill Street, kind of between the road that has 10,000 names, Stockton and 206, and Mercer Street. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And then moving in a little closer, you've got our side of the street with some of the seminary properties on the other side and behind us and next to us. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
All right. Again, here's the map of the historic district. This is as Elizabeth said, this is a type 2 district in the former borough. So we're, I don't know if it makes any difference here because you really can't get to the streets. Well, anyway, but you know, it's I guess it's a view from these streets in the district rather than neighboring properties. But you'll see that's a distinctive without a difference. You really can't see much of the back of this, no matter where you're standing, including space, as it turns out. Elizabeth mentioned the type of shingles. They could be fuchsia, frankly, and I don't think you'd see them unless from a drone. Jeff, again, this is the zoning map here showing where we are. with residential zone kind of tucked in between a bunch of educational zones?
Yes.
All right, now to the kind of meat of the programming here. On the right, we have some, I guess, example side profiles and side elevations, and then on the left, the first floor existing and proposed, so you can kind of see where the additions we're talking about are. So first, Jeff, I guess in the back here on the left, this is the new addition to the rear of 28 Edge Hill.
Right, we're adding an additional 10 feet to the rear of the building and approximately 3 to 4 feet on the side.
And as perhaps we'll show in a later slide, though, this back portion, this side line of the of the project, that actually does respect and is stepped back from the existing side yard setback. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And
Right.
any of
And
them.
then on the right, you can kind of see the arrow showing where that back portion of the addition is. And you want to just maybe quickly take how that's, I don't know, programmed is the right word, but what kind of rooms are back there? And it looks like there's some steps.
Yeah, we added this space on the first floor to expand the kitchen. And on the second floor, it's part of the owner's suite.
And I know we'll talk about windows a lot later, but these new windows that are being proposed on the first floor, both in the new space and the reconfigured existing space, those are, I guess, kind of dictated by the internal use. So I guess there's a staircase in one of them. Is that how that works?
That's correct. The one closest to the street, that's a stairwell that leads to the basement. So we wanted high windows there, but we wanted to bring some natural light down into the basement. And then the other triple windows are in the mudroom, and they're set up high so that they can utilize the wall space underneath that, yet still bring in daylight.
And then one other revised window here. This is in the dining room space. Is that right?
That's right. We as part of the plan, the new plan, we reduced the size of the dining room, so we consolidated the two windows into one pair, move them closer together.
In your, you've been to the site a lot, probably more than you'd like, between this project and other projects on that street. But are these really visible from the street? I mean, their function dictates them, but are these ones will see much from Edge?
Yeah, they're not fully visible. You can never see them head on. The property is very narrow on that side.
And we'll get to it perhaps when we actually talk about windows, but just this window up here in the upper right, this is the one that Elizabeth was talking about, that we had a discussion at Concept about potentially, I guess, doing the reverse of what we did up front. So then the existing up here, there's a window that I guess is an existing bedroom closet that was closed up and shuttered kind of permanently. In the new program, that's going to become a real window as part of a bedroom.
That's
and
right.
then this back window is going to be a closet, and we're currently showing it as without a window, but we can discuss later the suggestion to kind of I don't know what the verb is, shutter it in, but either way, it's not particularly visible from the street, but certainly something we interested in considering. So Jeff, next, I guess we'll talk about this front porch. Again, on the left, this is the existing photo, and on the right, the proposed. Here's some profiles and details of the front porch. Jeff, you want to take the board through what's being proposed here?
Yeah, so there's an existing brick stoop that we're going to maintain. We're just going to resurface that with bluestone. There's an existing wrought iron rail that will modify to accommodate the new columns for the flat roof porch. We intend to take the details from the existing pilasters and copy those into the new columns. What we've shown here is the existing front door, but we did want to ask about possibly putting side lights on that door and moving the existing pilasters so they align with the new columns. So we want,
That's something that I guess is in preparing for this, the homeowners kind of noticed on Edge Hill and around the corner, on I guess whether it was Stockton or Mercer, I forget which one, but there's something you've seen, and they were kind of thinking about maybe for just being able to see if someone was at the door, perhaps, and we're looking for some feedback as to whether that's something that the board would consider, I suppose, or be willing to consider now that they've thought of it. One last thing, I know the existing stoop is brick, and I guess you show that the brick remains, but that would it be?
yeah, the brick would remain on the side, but the actual walking surface, landings and treads would be bluestone.
Next, so that's the front portico. Next, we've got the front roof line. And I know we had that initial slide that showed existing house and proposed it. Gosh, made it look like we were building a big monster roof, but you can see the bottom right is the photo of the existing roof line, and you can see the elevation of that makes it look like there's a roof now, but the pitch is such that it cannot be seen, and we believe won't be seen in its slight about 1.5 foot increase. So Jeff, you want to just take us through what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so we're maintaining the existing cornice line, gutter line, that's not changing. The only thing that's changing here is the roof line. We increased the pitch due to the fact that the attic only had about a 6-foot high ceiling. So to make it a habitable space, we raised it almost 2 feet, not quite, and provided a shed dormer off the back to provide some more windows. The existing windows on the side will remain in their existing location with replacement windows, but same configuration. All the detail, the egg and dart, that will remain on the front of the house.
Excellent. I guess we provided a couple more street views backing up and from different angles to show really how not visible that current roof line is from the street. And then one of the suggestions at concept was really to kind of take us a bit of a tour down the street, the different roof lines. There are fewer than we had thought, across the street and next door, it's the barracks and some kind of open space as part of the seminary. But the few houses that we do have, many of whom have that low, and some might even think almost approaching flat pitched roofs from that seen from the street. What's proposed is all very similar to that, but likely would still remain less pitched and less visible than, for example, 12 and 14 Edge Hill, which have a very similar flat-ish, lower pitch roof treatment to what we have now at 28 and will have. 26 next door is a bit of an anomaly, different type of building altogether. And then you can see the barracks next door, which also cuts off most of the view of the side of the home.
And that, just to point out on the barracks, that also has a shed roof addition in the attic side.
And one just from that view, that shed roof points towards 28 Edge Hill. Is that right, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay. So speaking of the shed roof, while again, we don't believe it's visible at all from the front, an interesting quirk in the neighborhood character zoning ordinance, just for those of you who follow that type of thing, or there is an exemption for dormers to protrude into setback and height to setback ratios. And interestingly, because this one faces the rear, the rules don't really make a lot of sense. It's meant to be, I think most of the diagrams you'd see in the Monopoly house version of the form-based zoning that we have now show them pointing, towards the neighbor, and the idea of to have them broken up the roof facade and not be one solid giant shed dormer, or limit the amount from left to right. Here, it's kind of an odd application because we're all pointing backwards, and yeah, a corner of it you can see some of the lines does protrude into height to setback. Oddly, it's on the side that is furthest from the lot line, actually. But be that as it may, that exemption doesn't quite work for us in technically. So we are still while the dormer was pushed over to respect the setback from the neighboring residential property. That's on this from here looking back towards, that's on the right. The left side does impede into the height to setback ratio in a way that technically we don't have relief from under the new neighborhood character, even though they do recognize that dormers are good things and things that perhaps should on occasion. They just didn't catch this particular rear facing situation. And Jeff, I believe we clipped a picture here. This is two houses down, I
Yes.
suppose, very similar shed dormer. I'm not sure if people will be able to see ours from their property. So certainly not from a street. But this is the idea that it's common and an appropriate treatment, I think, is I don't know, present in the neighborhood. Jeff, anything else on dormers before I move to the next slide?
No.
Okay. So next we're talking about the type of variances. So we're doing, there's a rear addition, there's a front porch, and this rear facing dormer and slightly increased roof pitch in the front. Those do result in some variances, and we'll do our best to kind of explain them. On the left here, you could see how the existing house does not, based on it having an entirely, being undersized and having a reduced setback in its existing condition, like many of the lots on the street. You can see that the existing house is non-conforming for height to setback. You can see on the right, by adding about the 1.5 feet height, we are slightly more non-conforming, but not in a way that we believe has any negative impact and really could be seen or have any effect detrimentally on any of the surrounding properties. Here, you can see this line here is the larger of the two side yard setbacks. On the right, with the smaller one, is where the barracks is. On the left is where a neighboring residential property is. You can see how most of the existing house is built within the setback. Half of the existing front porch is. So really anything we do, even those slight tweaks to the roof line and covering that porch, are technically in that setback, and there's just no way around touching this house without doing that. The shed dormer was pushed out of that setback, for what it's worth, to the right. And the new addition to the rear was also designed to respect the setbacks as well. You can see on the right, that little bit of the change in roof is what's to the left of this line here that technically trips us up on side yard setback, as well as adding the porch. About half of that porch is in the side yard setback already. Next, moving to siding. Jeff, you want to just take us through what we're looking at, or I guess through here? We're on the left.
Yeah, so on the left, that's showing you from the interior with the wall finishes removed, that there's no wall sheathing and that you can actually see daylight through the existing siding. The existing siding, it's a horizontal clapboard wood siding, 6-inch plus or minus exposure, which we're intending on matching with the new product.
And then here's just an example in the neighborhood of that same siding type. All right. Next,
And then
I
that
jokingly said that I don't know that we'll be able to see the the shingles, but here they are, the type proposed and the light fixtured. Now, Jeff, is this just the front porch, or is there one in the rear as well?
that's proposed for the front porch, yes.
Okay.
The porch in the rear won't be visible from the right of way.
Now, I'm going to step back just a couple of slides because I forgot there was a question in the memo that I think we forgot to answer when we were looking at the side profile. So on the right here is the existing side elevation.
And Elizabeth, I apologize for the confusion. You are correct. The elevations are mislabeled north and south. It got mixed up.
Well, then her second question was whether there was a slight change in this roof line in the center part, that center box of the house, and why don't you just
It was, if you go to your comparison of the west elevation, the rear. If you, right, so what we're doing is extending the existing roof up about a foot in the rear. It's not affecting height setback ratio or anything. We just did that so that we could get the new addition in the back to align with all the roofs, the existing roofs.
So I guess that ridge does, I guess the ridge line is kind of moved a little bit, and then
It is,
goes
it's
up
moved about a
slight.
foot, but you would never see that from the right of way. from the
Got it. Got it. Before we, I think the next on our list is windows, but I do, I'm sure I see some hands up. I don't mean to, I'm happy to answer any questions if it's helpful while we're going through.
This is Charlotte. I just had a quick question on the south elevation. Closest to the street, closest to Edge Hill, there's a teeny tiny window, something between, on the ground floor, between, no, up, no. On the proposed elevation, ground floor, very small spat. What is that?
That might just,
Christine, you're blocking the view.
Is it a vent?
well, I think originally we were putting a gas fireplace there.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's still the homeowner's intent, but then that would be the vent for the gas fireplace.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Let's see, I have the same question, actually, as Charlotte, but I also, you showed one of the windows when you were showing the, that the siding had gaps and air was just coming into the building. The windows look like the window that you were showing looked new, and because it had, labels on all the lights. So,
Yeah, that was an example of a different house in town that has new siding,
okay,
like the siding we're proposing.
okay.
So I believe next on our discussion is the windows. Jeff, you want to take us through the type proposed? I know that this has been gutted so that they're able to do a rather than an insert, more of a new construction window that more
Right.
truly matches the existing glazing of what's there now.
Right, they're the Marvin wood windows, simulated divided light, with the historic mutton pattern to match the existing. They are inserts, so because we're proposing to do new siding, we'll be able to flash these windows, as well as insulate around the windows. We won't require storm windows. They will have a screen, but it won't be like the current aluminum triple track storm windows that are currently installed. So the nice thing about these windows, it shows more of the profile because you don't have that storm window blocking the view of the window.
And Jeff, you review these with the homeowners. Unfortunately, it's just there's between the age and the lead paint and whatnot, and obviously not all of them are of the same age, but that the ones that were worth discussing were unfortunately not really usable.
No, they were not.
Next, we've got the sash detail, but I think the shop drawings that you provided show that these are quite close matches to what's there now.
They are, and this detail does show a molding on the outside, but that won't be supplied. We'll be matching the existing exterior trim around the new windows.
So that's our presentation in chief. And just maybe perhaps in hitting the windows, Again, no pun intended, they're glass, I don't mean breaking them, but there are a couple of windows with kind of interesting treatments and slight differences from the existing locations, right? So on what we're calling the south elevation, which I think we might have realized might be the north in retrospect, but the barracks side, there is one currently closed-in window that we are going to be reopening because it will no longer be a closet, and then one existing window location that we have shown to be removed, but they're happy to discuss whether it'd be more appropriate to shutter in like that front window had been, if the board thinks that that one might be visible enough to do that treatment for. And then on what we were calling the north, but maybe the south elevation, I believe there was a kind of a blank piece of wall that we're putting a window in, just because I believe we discussed that with the board during concept, unless I'm mistaken, but that's where a step goes and there's a spot on the landing that could support a window. Jeff, do I have those changes right? Or
Yeah, if you could go to those two elevations, just so we could point out.
so this is what I believe we were calling north, but probably a south elevation. This is the window here that we're talking about.
Right, we were adding that window at a stairwell landing, which the client is willing to do without. But that one elevation is very blank. There's just the one archtop window and the double hung on the first floor currently.
And then let me go back two more. And then this, what we're calling south, but we believe now is the north elevation. This window here in existing is being opened up because it's a bedroom and no longer a closet. And then this spot back here, Elizabeth's suggestion is to consider closing it in and keeping the form of it there. That's something we're happy to discuss. So
Okay, thank
happy
you.
to take any questions.
Yeah, let's see, can we stop the sharing just for a second?
Absolutely.
I wanted to focus on the front because I think that that's where any changes have the most impact. So as far as the door, and I think there was a discussion on whether or not the applicant could put lights on the side of the door. And I just wanted to throw that out, see how people felt about that. Christine, I know you got your hand up, and then Charlotte.
Okay, what I don't understand is that on the plans, the third floor doesn't show any use for that space, and you're raising the roof to give more headroom, and you're putting on a dormer. So I just don't think it's storage, because you're putting in, if it was storage, you might just leave it as is. So I was just wondering what's the use that's prompting all of these changes?
That's going to be an extra bedroom if we can, or an office. We have 2 children who might be coming back to visit, and we also would like to have a small office. So right now on the second floor, there's only the front bedroom and the side bedroom with the master, and we would like to be able to utilize the third floor. We don't need it for storage. It has a basement. So we would like to have the extra space.
Okay.
Great. Okay, I think Charlotte and then David.
I just, on the windows, I think you said simulated lights.
Yeah, they're the simulated divided lights. They have the a black spacer bar in between the insulated glass. So when you're looking at it, it looks like a true divided light.
So, but they're not true divided lights.
well, they have that appearance, but no, they're not true divided.
Well, they, I beg to differ. They don't really have that appearance, but, okay, all right.
Well,
That-
you might be thinking of the type that just has the muttons applied to the outside. but
Right,
This
This-
has the mutton applied, but it also has a black spacer bar in between. So when you look at it sideways, you can't just see through it. It looks solid.
okay. I'm just curious, is there an option to do true divided lights?
There is a very expensive option to do true divided lights. In the past, we've done the simulated divided lights in town.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
All right, David,
I actually have a lot of comments, but about the front, this is a modest 3-bay house. That's what it is. And the porch, adding the porch, coming up with these columns that look like the pilasters, and then even wanting side lights in addition is just way over the top change for what this house was about. And I'm bothered by that a lot.
Actually, if you read the history of the house, it had a full front porch originally, all the way
Yeah.
across. That was covered. So that was removed in the 1940s when they renovated the house. So actually, the original house had that. And I don't think that what we're proposing is over the top in comparison, respectfully.
I think that that's a very different kind of porch. Often those were working porches or outdoor spaces. This is deeper and it has a lot of trim that's being added and asked for. And the side lights definitely can't be
Well,
defended.
frankly, the side lights for my purposes are a safety issue. And they were very period appropriate. There were a lot of them used in those, it's not inappropriate for the time frame.
But the scale of the house.
Well, I think it would be fine with the scale of the house. We're only proposing to cover the stoop. We're not increasing that at all. And I think it's very modest, personally. It's a 3-story house. But that, yeah, that's my opinion.
Elric, did you want to comment on the
Oh, I got
front
a few.
details?
Yes.
Okay,
You know, that area boasts about 20 good examples. And yet you have come up with plans which don't really address the actual trim that would have been on that front door. If you just walk that one block on Alexander, you'd see about 10 examples. Some of them are quite simple. Some of them are more decorative. But this whole thing with the pilasters on either side of the door, they're really not pilasters. They are the door jambs. They're the trim for the door jambs. The pilasters would be broader than that. The idiom of this house is 1830s, and I have a lot of objections about that. I don't find one of those that has a masonry base to it. These are that with the stoop and the steps would be wood, and you're not showing that. You're just redecorating the what's there, and particularly the flagstone is just inappropriate.
so Elric, so you're suggesting that the steps be wood on top of the brick, or?
No, I get rid of what's there. It's just walk around and just take photographs of all these different doorways, particularly along Alexander. You can do better, and you've got this wonderful egg and dart molding at the top of the building. I mean, it can stand decoration, but it can't stand. Personally, I just find these slight variations. If there were one or two, it would be one thing, but they're all over the house. It's like it gets to a
Mr.
point where-
Endersby, would you prefer we took all of that out, the decoration? I mean, I thought we were supposed to.
No,
make
not at
clean
all, not at
whatever we
all.
Could.
Uh,
I'm not following your commentary. You want us to go back to wood steps and take off the decoration?
No, it's not taking off. It's making sure that the decorative elements that you're adding by putting on a porch with porch columns, you're showing porch columns which have nothing to do with what porch columns look like on any of those houses. They're variations, but not like this. And just take a look at them. You can do better.
But on Edge Hill, it would conform to what's currently on Edge Hill. I'm not that familiar with Alexander, frankly. I haven't gone down Alexander to look
Just
at all.
take it. It's a beautiful street, and just walk along
I
that
agree with
that
that.
whole area. The house has been moved. By the way, the front porch got running all the way across the front. It may have been removed. However, it was not. You won't find a Greek revival house like that in Princeton. So it's not an original feature. It's a previous feature which was removed.
Okay, are we supposed to be trying to make this an original replica, or are we just supposed to be trying to preserve what is there as best as we can? Because if we were supposed to be trying to make this an original replica, then I think we would have to do a whole new application. This is not that, and I don't know that I would have been signing on for that. I don't know.
No,
what
it's
this house
been
would have looked like in
reinterpreted
its
many
original
times.
form.
But you and typical of these houses, which is not atypical for things that are being built now, most of the decorative elements were on the facade, and they were simpler as the house goes back. And you'll find that you've got that. And if you bring up the elevations, particularly the side elevation facing the barracks, which that's what I would actually consider north. The 18th century houses face south, and so the side of the barracks you see would have been the front of the house, even though it didn't face the street. Another story altogether. But look at the fenestration along that side wall facing the barracks. It has there's a rhythm to it on each of the sections, and you've chosen to change that. And I think some of those features, like the reintroducing a window, if in fact there was ever a window there on the front, that's great. And doing it in the back to maintain the rhythm of the fenestration, even though you're not going to have a window in that location, that's terrific. Putting three horizontal windows for the steps down to the cellar, it just breaks it up. Ganging two windows in the dining room, all those are expenses which you don't really need. And the house has a lovely the patterning along that is well worth preserving. Back door, you can do better than that. With this one side light on it, why?
Well, can we just focus on
Because
what
we're
we're seeing
trying to
on the
make the house
street?
work for us with respecting what the town would like us to do with respect to what can be seen from the street. The back of the house, frankly, everybody has different preferences.
I take your point.
Trying to make it work.
But you're so close to having it right, and these are variations which are going to skew it even further. And it's a wonderful neighborhood, and this house, you're not going through massive expenses on this.
Well, we frankly, we are, but that's beside the
Well,
point.
perhaps
This
if
has
I
to
could
be-
seize on something that Elric just said there, that we are close, and I think the one of the many positive points of this process is to get these type of comments, and we got some of them I think during concept, but maybe you would, because Elric, I think I heard two buckets of things. One, and stop me if I have this wrong, was not the existence of the front porch so much as the design and ornamentation
Yes.
of it.
Right.
Do I have that right?
Yes, and it can be
Okay.
quite simple. Take a look at some of the ones on the east side of Alexandria. Those are simpler than the ones that the seminary owns on the other side. You'll find straightforward decoration on those houses. They were really the houses of working people, a lot of them. Yet now this whole thing with the gas fireplace, does that mean there's an existing chimney that you're removing, or was that removed long ago?
That was removed long ago. Currently there are no chimneys that come through the roof.
Yeah, the
So
chimneys,
they were tapped off at some point.
right.
But it's just the chimney is tapped. That you could presumably have a gas unit in an existing fireplace.
No, the chimney's now
Yeah,
gone.
the
Chimneys-
chimney
whole
is
thing's gone.
yeah.
Okay, my question. I was amused by the lamp in the ceiling. I'm all in favor of having a light like that, except for the fact that the advertisement on it calls it a colonial gas-fired lamp, as if that's possible. I mean, it's just, and the two flames are coming off on either side like a Bunsen burner. It's just amusing that people don't really look at what would be better. The window, the small thing, but that arched window in the attic, I don't know who or when it was put in, but the horizontal orientation of the muntins or whatever, and it's Greek revival. You don't that's just, you don't need that.
Can
Well,
I
I
get
mean,
something
Alric, if
from you?
something's already there, we can't tell them to,
I know, I
Change it.
understand
Well,
that.
well,
It
let
just-
me back up a bit. I think the applicant is actually going to great expense to modernize and duplicate that existing window, and perhaps could save a lot of money if something
Yeah,
simple.
that's a very expensive window to replace.
Put the
and
two
repair.
that reflect the ones on the other side of the house. And if you want, put one, like, I really like the idea that you're putting a window on the landing. That's
Okay.
perfectly appropriate.
I'm happy to put a similar window instead of the arched window. More than happy to do that.
Good.
That'll pay my bill and then some.
Oh,
So-
well,
It's just a very, it's a
I'm
it's a
sorry.
good house in a good neighborhood, and it just deserves a little more scrutiny, I think.
again.
okay, Alric,
Maybe,
can we,
maybe it was our misunderstanding, because we were under the impression that we had to try to retain as much of what existed at this point in time. And so we've gone forward with those plans. I don't know, I guess I could make the front porch a little simpler, but, and I don't want to add extra expense, certainly if you think that what I'm doing is adding, is over the top. But I would like to have a covered stoop. And would be happy to try to make it simpler if that would please the committee.
Just take a look. I mean, most people have to go on a field trip. You just have to walk around the block, and you'll see you'll say, "Oh, that might work." And I think in the end, you'll look back and say, "I'm glad we took that stroll."
And not to, I feel like Mr. Rogers here a little bit with the magic of TV, but we did because we were thinking about the side lights in particular, but I do have a couple of examples on the neighborhood, and since we are talking about it, I'd hate to get the comment but not have the specifics of a way that we can use and make this better. Would it be okay if I shared a screen and showed 3 examples on the street so we can just have a better idea of what the comment is that?
yeah, that would be helpful.
All right, so hopefully nothing confidential, because this was part of an email here that I was sending, but here, first, one just around the corner. I apologize that I think I've cut off the streets, but these are all across the street and then around the corner, essentially.
This house has come to us, so we're familiar with this.
Yep.
The glassed-in portico is something which was introduced, I think, when I was a kid, 1950s. But you look at the simplicity of those columns. Now, they don't have to be fluted, but the fluting, what you describe as fluting on the existing surround on the front door, is very different. Look how plain. Yeah, all right.
Then next, I think this is 35 Edge Hill. I know this is seminary property, so this, another porch example.
Yes, and see, and the breadth of the pilasters is the same as the columns. I don't, by the way, I don't actually object to the side lights. That's not a particularly old house, but it is nearby.
Here's another one, not without the front porch, but with some side lights. So I'm, as we try to catalog as much as this we can. I know this is not a necessarily a choose your own adventure application, but we want to try to catalog as much of the comments as we can and understand them. So that hopefully that was helpful. I happen to have those three up. What I'm hearing is perhaps not universal agreement about side lights one way or the other, but a simplification in a way that perhaps matches some of the neighborhood examples better. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so
Can I add
again-
just a second there? It's about scale. You're showing us 5-bay houses and we're looking at a 3-bay house. You're talking about a Stedman house, taller and bigger proportions than this house. You can't just translate that onto these houses, onto that house. They're just different. Whether it exists in the neighborhood on another house doesn't mean it's necessarily appropriate to this house.
Most of the houses on Alexander are 3-bay houses, David.
Right. And they showed us 5-bay house with a massive front porch and side lights.
No, but take a look. We'll take a walk together.
all right, so we're talking about what to tell the zoning board. So the zoning board is going to be the board of jurisdiction on this application. And so I think determining if we are supporting the covered porch with the simplified column and lights on other side of the door, is that something that is supported? I mean, I think Elric was saying that with it being simplified, it would be much improved. Christine?
Yes, I support what Elric was saying about the porch, about the portico, really. And I think it could be more simplified, and maybe we could put it in the report that we would ask the zoning board if this porch would come back to us, to a subcommittee for approval, for certain changes to make it more simpler and more alike other porticos in the neighborhood. And I don't like the ceiling porch light. I don't think it fits the house at all. And I think that it would be good to have 2 side lights on the face of the, I guess, the pilasters at this point, pilasters at this point.
I think when you say side light, you don't mean windows, you mean like
Yes.
carriage lanterns.
I mean a light fixture.
Okay, Tom?
If I could just say something
Oh,
about
sure.
the light.
Go ahead, go ahead.
The ceiling on the porch is recessed so that you won't really see most of that light. And it's not common to put lights on pilasters because it's meant to look like a structural, it's meant to look like a structural element. So I wouldn't recommend putting a light on there. And just to speak to the porches on Alexander, I've drawn every one of those porches on the seminary side. And I can tell you some of them are very elaborate, just as elaborate as the cornices on those buildings. So I could see on the front porch taking the fluting off of the columns, making it simplify that, but I only had some simple cove molding. I wasn't trying to copy all the egg and dart from above.
No, you don't need to.
Yeah.
By the way, I think those seminary houses are undergoing renovation, and then it may be available to actually poke your head in.
Well, like I said, I'm the architect on those jobs. I'm doing 6 of those houses on that side. And yeah, I'll be seeing you soon on those as well.
All right, Tom, you had your hand up?
Mine is really a process question. Every time we come into these discussions, I'm always impressed with the level of detail and the historical knowledge that we bring to the case. I just want to ask, thinking though from the homeowner's point of view, when they came for us for a concept review, did we bring these points up at that time when they could have incorporated these more timely into their process and more cost effectively?
You know, I don't recall this discussion happening at that time. I think we were focused on the roof, and getting clarification on how that would be visible or not visible from the street. But yeah, we actually, I don't think, spent enough time on this. So I do think that's a good point. I definitely saw the portico at the last concept review, so it was there.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that we are advising the zoning board, and so they might not completely get all of our detail, but we do have to give them advice.
So I'm just
But Tom,
wanting to
also,
keep it real here for all the process that we have to go through and the good citizens that come before us. So I do think we have to keep everything in balance here, including the timing of the projects. I know we're not supposed to consider the financial considerations or anything else but the historical part, and I'm all on board. But we can help homeowners by being very timely and precise and earlier so that they can incorporate these things into the plan sooner.
Tom, the concept review is a concept review. It's not to review details like we're talking about now with the portico. And I don't, I think nobody's objecting to a portico per se, but we're talking about the details, and it's just not something that we would have talked about in the concept review.
Really? I find that extraordinary because I do remember seeing this as it was presented to us now as it was back then. So I think if we had thoughts, whatever we can do to help the homeowner while preserving the history is sort of what I'm advancing, right?
All right, Christine, go ahead.
I don't remember having that level of detail for the portico.
No.
I don't think
Interesting.
they added that detail for us to be able to even talk about it. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's how I recall it.
Yeah, Ulrich.
Just I think the major focus at that point was on the roof, and oddly enough, I have no objections about that whatsoever. I would prefer not to see the dormer, but I understand. I think you're going to be safer if you call it an office, not an extra bedroom. But we did spend a lot of time on that, and I know the windows on the side came up because of the shutters as opposed to open windows and all that sort of thing. There are a lot of different window designs that are shown here. It'd be very helpful if there were fewer, but as you say, most of that's on the back of the house and not on the facade.
I do recall when we were talking about the portico in the concept review that there was, I thought, some mention that we made sure to maintain the pilasters and the transom. And there was an understanding that there would be columns in the front. That was definitely what we were talking about. Other detail I don't recall.
All right, so in general, are we supportive of the application with the points that would you feel like just recommending that there's a simplified column on the portico and that there are fewer window variations?
Mhm.
Okay,
Um,
And just so I have it clear, Madam Chair, when you say window variations, you mean fenestration locations of windows and types rather than something in particular about the windows proposed themselves. Is that
right, right, like that it's
the
not.
arch window in particular?
Yeah, that's not
Well,
necessary.
I mean, for
Is
for
it
instance,
objectionable? I mean, is it objectionable or is?
Well,
It's
you're
been
replacing,
there- It's been there for as long as they've had pictures of the house, so
the sunroom area, or whatever that area is, facing south.
Right.
The windows vary there, and I think they should, because it shows that that was an addition to the house. It's not part of the original fabric. I do have more problems with the other side and the back, which is probably none of my business, but just the proportions of some of these things are, you know, the ganged windows on the back are fine, but they dominate the first floor, but in an odd way. You've been very patient with us. I appreciate your hearing some of my thoughts.
I'm happy to hear them. I need to understand them though. That's.
all right, David,
Could the applicant please review for me the 5 windows on the front of the house? What's happening with them? They all being replaced wholesale or what's going on there?
Ryan, did you want to speak to that or
Yeah,
Jeff?
we maybe kind of glanced over it, but here's the slide on that shows what the type of windows that are being done there.
And these are the ones with the Charlotte, help me with the language. It was the
Divided lights.
yeah. You know, we're talking about so much change to this building and, you know, adding massive amounts of space to it, that it seems to me that if we could respect the building with just treating these 5 windows and that portico in the best way we can, that would be the best gift to the street. And within what we're talking about, we're not supposed to see any false history applied to a building. You're supposed to have all the creativity you want, but some of this is just making this thing grander than it should be for a house that's of its time and place. And I don't want to lose that representation on the street, what this house was about. And I guess I could be happier with the whole project if there was some upgrade to what we're doing to these windows and reducing what we're doing to that front portico to keep this the essential facade in a kind of pure form, not a frozen form, but just a little bit more keeping with what the house is about and what it contributes to the street, and kind of an more honesty, I guess, is what I'm thinking.
I think we'd be agreeable to a lesser portico.
Mhm.
The windows are the windows, but a lesser portico with side lights on the doors if possible. I would personally appreciate. I do feel it's a security issue for me. Something I've always had and felt essential about. But
today there are security cameras. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen, and I don't know that there's a high crime rate along that street.
I'm sorry,
well,
just to
let's-
answer your question about the windows in the front. The intent is to just have a modern construction window that's insulated, but everything else will look identical. It's going to look identical in size, configuration to the existing windows, including the shutters.
Are the muttons the same width as the
They're the same
originals?
width, yes. We're within, I believe it's less than 1/4 of an inch of pane sizes.
Now, Jeff, one thing that will be a positive change is we'll be removing the triple track storm windows and
Right.
inserting these.
Yeah, the aluminum frame storm windows, which I believe are very unsightly and cover the windows more than need be.
all right, is there a feeling on the commission about the side lights on the door? I don't really have an objection to those. And there are others that I don't know, may feel differently. Christine, you had a comment?
Yes, I just noticed that in the front front side gables there, what is the material on the top? Because it was not shown to be clapboard.
You mean on the gable facing south?
Well, I don't know, maybe on both sides, but the one that we just had there, I didn't notice the direction.
Jeff, I think you're on mute if you can answer that.
Yeah, that's just the way that it printed. It's meant to be clapboard siding, but that designates the area that's being rebuilt or
Oh,
raised.
okay. All right.
Okay. So as far as the lights on the side of the door, are people okay with that?
They would have to be very narrow. The doorway is actually not centered on the below the window above it, and I think it's pushed far enough into the corner that adding the side lights are going to be just a few inches wide.
I think
don't
it,
project as much as some, but you should keep that in mind.
That's
All
fine.
right.
I believe that the sample that Ryan showed across the street has some very narrow.
Yes, I noticed that.
All right. So side lights should be very narrow if they're installed on the side of the door. Okay. Christine, you had your hand up again. Is there another question?
I didn't take it down.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right. So as far as the zoning board is concerned, Ed, did you want to like go over what we suggested or summarize?
Well, I mean, I have your notes and I think we could certainly, I'm not sure the zoning board would approve something and then refer it back to HPC to approve the portico. I think you're just gonna we're gonna have to write that up so that we have a excellent architect and we've got cooperative applicants and we have a good attorney. So when they go to the board, I think they get what you're suggesting. We'll put that in writing, but I don't think the matter should come back to the board. I don't think the zoning board would do that.
Well, I didn't mean the board, whole board. I meant the subcommittee. And
I don't think they would send it back to a subcommittee. I think it's their application. They're going to review it. They're going to approve it or deny it.
All right. So are there any last points or suggestions? Otherwise, I think Ed has enough to put the memo together. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in, and hopefully you'll we'll be done.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated time here, as well as a concept, and Tom, in particular, your comment, I bring a lot of these and just to kind of know what type of things are helpful to get out during concept. Not everyone does them, but we
Sure.
try to do it as often as possible. That was actually very
appreciate
helpful
I appreciate
get
that
to.
as well as all the good comments from Eldrick and David. That's what we're here for. I'm just,
Thank
I'm
you.
the junior member of this outfit, so I'm just learning as I go as well.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. We're
you.
gonna try to go back to 66 Lee Avenue. Elizabeth, do you have any updates?
Yes, I see that the applicant is back in, so I am going to see there is an opportunity to promote her to the panelists, so I'm going to do that now. Let me see, she's actually got two. Let's see which one works.
Okay,
Madam Chairman, meanwhile, I have to bolt for my 6 o'clock meeting that I'm chairing, so
okay.
best wishes
All
to
right.
everybody. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tom. All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, Tom.
Thank you.
All right.
How do I get out here?
Ming Ping, I'm trying to promote you to a Panelists, I've tried both of your connections. Okay,
It's not
think-
working.
no, I think, yes, she's it.
Okay. Oh, I think I see Ming.
Yep,
Get out.
Okay.
Leave webinar.
Are you able to unmute Ming and turn on a camera?
let me just, I'm just gonna ask her to unmute. Ming, here she goes. Okay, great.
Okay.
Ming Ping, can you turn on your camera, please?
Oh, we can put Zoom meetings behind us forever very
Yeah.
soon.
I know, right?
Ming, can you hear us?
You know, maybe we should go to Linden and then come back. See if we can work this out later.
Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can move her back then.
Or she can stay and just try to work things out.
Okay. All right. Ming Ping, we're going to try to get you to work on your camera. If you have a question, just raise your little electronic hand. There's a button usually on the bottom that says raise hand. You have two logins. You have this one where you're on the panelists, and then there's also another one that you have that's still in the attendee. So if you want to let us know if for some reason this isn't working and the other one might be better, we'll try to do that when we return to you.
Julie,
Yeah,
I,
David.
I see there was a question from Joe Butler that she wanted to know if you were going to take public comment.
Oh, sorry. Oh, no. On Edge Hill.
I don't know. It didn't say.
Okay.
Do you want me to bring her over? Let's see, she's not there anymore.
Okay.
Oh, yes, she is. Hold on.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry.
She's,
But
and you know what? There's someone else also, Jessica, who also lives on the corner. Let me, do you want me to just have her allowed to speak, or you want me to bring her over? Ed, what would be appropriate?
Ed, since we
Yeah, I
already
think,
let
I think you ought to bring her over, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Joe,
I
I'm
mean,
going to bring you over.
they are going to the zoning board, so they'll have a chance to comment there.
And it looks like Ryan is still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll bring Jessica over too. I think that she also wants to speak, so I'll bring them both over.
And I really apologize.
Hi, could you bring our neighbor Jessica in?
Yes, I brought her in also.
Okay, great. Could she
I'm
go?
here. Hi there.
Oh, great. Jessica, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Hi, my name is Jessica Vier. I'm the owner of 86 Stockton. You all probably know me all too well from my own applications to this commission. I appreciate the time that the new homeowner has taken to really elaborate all of the concerns and try to solve for a more modern residence. What I'd like to say is that honestly, 28 Edge Hill sits on probably the most historic street in Princeton, and right next to, not just down the street, but right next to the oldest home in Princeton. We could say that it's undersized relative to current standards, like the house itself is undersized relative to current standards. And of course, on a small lot, you would want to try and maximize the size. But it was full known and well aware that the owner should be well aware that obviously when they bought the house, that it's in a historic district, and that modifying the front of the home in any way other than what was proven to be historic really shouldn't be allowed. I mean, we are all here homeowners. As you all know, I tried very hard to do a lot of things, but tried to keep everything in keeping as close to as possible that was irrecognizable to any change. The concern I have isn't really even about the porch, although I agree the porch that's been proposed is quite overwhelming for the house, but I'm really worried about the change to the roof line. The change to the slope of the roof line was a concern that was raised when we did our solar panels. We worked very hard to ensure that everything was kept as it was. I certainly could have come and asked for an increase to the slope of my roof to make more house in the top of the house. And arguably my house would have commanded more of it because it's just a larger house. But I think we have to be very careful in setting precedent and being careful when we set precedent in our very, very tiny, but very historic and significant neighborhood. The home can be expanded to the back without being noticeable, but raising the roof line really sets a precedent, and to me is overdevelopment on the lot. They even mention it, to be honest. Footprints on Edge Hill does mention that the house in fact was moved, that it was probably built in, so that's Footprints on Edge Hill is the book that was written. It mentions that it was probably built in pieces. It did have a small porch on it. So I think everyone agrees that that's great. What I would also like to say is that, you know, again, it's not trying to be difficult to the neighbor. It's just realizing that if we set precedent here, then we set precedent everywhere else. I would also like to comment, because she's not able to be here, on behalf of our other neighbor in town, which is Jane McLennan, who is at 6 Edge Hill. And I actually have an email that she asked me to share her comment specifically, which is, of course, I had it and I was emailing everybody that I knew on the committee to try and get on on the comment. She says, I just wanted to say for a long period of time, this is, and I quote, I planned to say that for a long period of time, keeping the front of the historic house has been sacrosanct on Edge Hill. This house is next door to the oldest residential home in Princeton, and granting a variance or something that isn't medically necessary, such as a ramp for a wheelchair or something more that may even be a temporary fix, would be starting down a slippery slope. Where do we begin to draw the line? So again, I appreciate, and I don't want to be the bad neighbor, but I want everyone to realize that Edge Hill is really a very, very special street. And those of us who live here really want to be careful and have tried very hard to keep that historic benchmark. Thanks.
All right, I just want to stress there is a zoning board hearing with this application. So we are not the board of jurisdiction. So you will have a chance at the zoning board as well.
Well, but the concerns I raise are not about, well, they are partly about zoning, but it's really a historic bench to this. In other words, that room, I was in the house before they touched it. The room is habitable. It's not like it's not habitable. It's actually quite, in my mind, quite an expense to change the slope of the roof only to gain a little bit of roof, a little bit of headroom. But if that's what they choose to do, that's what they choose to do. So, but I noted, and we will continue. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Yep.
And yeah, I apologize. I didn't realize that you guys were here to comment on that application. So my mistake.
problem.
Yes, Jill.
Thanks. So I just want to jump in and support the comments of both David and Elric. Good to see you both again. There is something about kind of a death by 1,000 cuts, that a little change here and a little change there, and pretty soon it doesn't, you know, it doesn't have the same feel. It's gone from being kind of the modest historic house that it is to something else. And I don't know what chance there is or what the process would be. You know, that street slopes down significantly. And so when you say you can't see it from the street, if you are down Edge Hill, that will be quite noticeable if, you know, the change in the roof line from the back. And a lot of people, Einstein's house is right at the base of the hill. So there are a lot of people who come to Princeton specifically to be in that area and see that. And so, you know, I don't know if I mean, I guess since it wasn't mentioned in the hearing that you had, whether there's still time for somebody else to go out and take a look at it again, because you couldn't bring it back to the public meeting from the historic preservation point of view. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Do you follow that? But anyway, I just want to support those comments that David and Elric already covered. But I also have a public comment on another matter, but do I have to wait till the end of the meeting? One minute?
Well, I mean, we have 3 more applications. So if you want to just throw it out there real quick, you know.
Yes,
here.
I just want to call to your attention, it's relative to TRW, and historic preservation took kind of a courageous stance 5 years ago when they evaluated the Tenant Roberts and Whiteley Gymnasium. And so if you don't know, I want to call to your attention that there was a New Jersey Supreme Court ruling in March. It's called Malanga versus the Township of West Orange. And it's very easy to read online. The oral arguments you can find on YouTube that were presented. And I think you will find the similarities between our case at TRW and what the court ruled, that could be better, is not a legal standard, and that just because a building needs repair doesn't make it obsolete or faulty in any way. And that you must, if you're using that criteria D, you must actually prove harm. You can't just say that there is harm, you have to prove it. And so I would encourage you all to familiarize yourself with that. I'm sure Ed can tell you more. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I think it would be of interest to all of you who were involved 5 years ago.
Okay, thanks, Joe. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you. All right. I think we're moving on to 20 Linden Lane. Is that correct?
Yes. Hold on a minute, Madam Chair. I do see that the applicant for 66 Lee has her hand up. Should I just allow her to talk instead of bringing?
Yeah.
her over? Okay.
Is she able to turn a camera on?
I think that she's just going to talk right now and
Okay.
maybe let us know.
A moment ago, there was a camera on.
Oh, was
Oh, okay.
her? Oh, let's see.
I
Oh,
believe so.
Ming Ping, you've got your hand up. Can you unmute yourself? And if you can, put your camera on to talk to us.
I don't know why I couldn't make myself visible on the screen. I tried many times and I tried in different ways. Can you hear me?
We can hear
Yeah,
you. Yes.
we can
but
hear
we
you.
Can't see you.
Ed,
I
just-
tried on my phone and I tried on my computer.
Okay.
And I
There's-
don't know why.
There's a button that says like stop video. It's next to the mute button usually. And so the video really means your camera.
Yes, that one is on actually.
Oh, do you have something like on your computer? Do you have to like push a button to make the camera pop up?
I did. I tried. It didn't work.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, on the screen it showed that it's open, it's on, but I know I couldn't see myself on the screen.
Maybe is there a cover? In any case, I think we're gonna have to see you on camera for the hearing.
I don't know whether there's a problem with my computer, but it's just not working.
Do you have someone who lives nearby, next door, something that perhaps you can go and see if you can log on their computer, and then we can come back to you again? We'll move on to the next application and see if you're able to. Do you have a neighbor or someone nearby that
As I mentioned to you, Miss Kim, I'm new to the
okay.
neighborhood and also to New Jersey. Basically, I don't know anyone. And this is the only computer I have, and I have my phone here. So I tried to, before the meeting started, I have been trying and trying. I just couldn't make myself visible.
Right.
Madam Chair, I think we're gonna have to accept jurisdiction so that we don't have to notice again, but we're gonna have to continue this. We have to see the applicant. This is something you have jurisdiction over, so it's a hearing. She'll be sworn in and you'll make the final decision. And I think if you keep going back and forth this way, you're never gonna get the evening
Yeah,
done.
right.
And
We have-
I think you ought to just accept jurisdiction and continue it to next month. And we'll see if we can get this technical stuff straightened out.
And also, I want to, just want to let you know that I didn't know I have to be in this meeting. And if I did, I would, try to go somewhere else to, just to make sure everything working ahead of time. Basically, I didn't know I have to be, attending.
Hey, well, Ming, if we could see you in October, you should maybe have contact with Elizabeth about the next meeting so we can continue your application then. That would be great.
I would like to have this resolved as soon as possible.
Right.
If
we
I
need-
know someone knows some of you at somewhere else, I can go there in person. I just don't know how to make myself on the screen.
How about the
with
public
computer I have
library?
right now?
Does the public library have computer capacity for her to try? And then we can try to, at the end of the meeting, maybe, if there's enough time. Otherwise, I think, Julie, you do have to give the date for the public to know that if it doesn't work today, the next meeting that you would be returning would be October 16th.
All right. So, all right. So Ming, we're gonna move on to 20 Linden, because it's almost 6 o'clock. So,
Right.
all right. And then at the end, if you can find a computer, then we can hear your application.
I was just gonna say, if she has an iPad, she can connect.
Well, she has a computer.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
doesn't, she only has one computer.
But,
I do, I do have something, just for my granddaughter to view the videos, for kids. I can try on that one to see whether that will work out.
All right, you'll have to load the Zoom application on it though.
Oh, okay.
And I
Okay, I'll
will-
try that one. I'll try that one.
And also, if you want, try to go to the library because you're close by. You're on Lee. You can
Right.
either drive or walk. And then I think that someone there might also be able to help you with your technical problem. And maybe by the end of the meeting, you're going to be able to sign on so we can see you.
Will the meeting last for another hour?
We'll see. All right.
I know. Yeah.
Thank
Because
you.
I need to pick up my granddaughter right now and then
Oh.
go to
Oh,
the
well,
library. Yeah.
Well, go get her
Okay.
and see, what your timing is to come back and then check back to see if we're here. We might still be here. I don't know.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so sorry about that. We're moving on to 20 Linden
No
Lane.
more Zoom, no more Zoom.
We have a mutiny. Okay, 20 Linden Lane,
Okay, that's Ryan again.
yeah.
Jeff, are you also the architect on this? Yes?
And if we have one more, if Tim Cantwell, the
Yeah.
owner applicant is an attendee, if we can move him over as well.
Yes. So he's been promoted.
All right. Apologies on the technical difficulties.
Okay.
Everybody, can you see me okay?
Yeah.
We see you.
I
Okay,
happen to
so-
run a software company here in town, and my customers heckle me all the time about, so you can run a software company, but you can't use Zoom. And it's true, I can't use it either.
It's true.
I was gonna say, maybe you could help the other applicant out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So Elizabeth, do you want to go over your report
Yeah.
quickly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so this is 20 Linden. So the applicants are Amanda Zoe Del Balso and Timothy Cantwell, is that correct? They filed an application pursuant to the Princeton Borough Land Use Code to make improvements to the garage driveway and to construct a new parking space, which requires C variances. So this site is identified as block 33.02, lot 57 on the Princeton tax map, and it does fall within the former borough R4 zone. It is further identified as 20 Linden Lane. The property is located on the west side of the street between Nassau and Spruce Street, and it's closer to Nassau Street. The property falls within the suggested Tree Streets Historic District as identified in the historic preservation element of the Princeton Community Master Plan. Let's see. So this application is also in the zoning board adjustment jurisdiction. And let's see. So this property is also a bit narrow. It's 75 feet wide by 107, but it's actually a normal sized lot within this neighborhood, and it's actually a little bit larger than some on this block. The property is situated in a residential neighborhood that possesses a wide variety of 19th and early 20th century houses. Newer construction is more present than in previous years. Many of the houses on this block have garages, and those that do, they are normally detached and located in the rear yard. An exception is a newer building with an attached street-facing garage. Still present on the east side of the street are once carriages or stable houses in the rear yards, which have been converted and function as barn or garage or storages. There's going to be a before description and an after description. There's the before description, which shows photos of the 2019 Google Street, which were included in this project. And then there's a one which was from a site visit September of this year. So the house before construction, which still is a 4-square house, and it has a freestanding 1-car garage in the rear yard. It was built circa 1909, and the footprint is almost identical to what it was on the 1911 Sanborn map, except for the rear porch, which has been removed. It's 2.5-story square boxy design, typical 4-square details with the pyramidal roof. It did not have a full width porch, which is normally common, but they were still visible with the smaller porches. The garage is a gable roof, and it is visible from the public right of way. Both the house and garage were clad in cedar shake siding, and the window trim, doors, porch posts, and railings are white. Then the house is situated closer to the north lot line, which is the side where the driveway is. So at my site visit in September, obviously this property is under construction. The original porch has been removed and enlarged, and which is almost to the full width of the house. The first floor windows and doors have been replaced, and the first floor siding is now vertical board. And I believe the cedar siding has been replaced on the upper half of the house. And also the existing sidewalk and landscape has been removed. So I believe all of that, and Ryan, you can confirm, has been done, which didn't require any type of variances or anything like that. Which is the reason that did not come before HPC, because that is not an application. We only see applications in the suggested district. So the proposed application, to get to the meat of this variance, is the applicant actually wants to put a new parking space in the front of their yard. They are saying that their driveway, which is a little bit over 9 feet wide, is hard for them to maneuver in and out of. And I believe that the garage is not used for a garage, but they've been parking on the side of the house. So they're asking for a space to be allocated in the front yard, and also to widen their curb cut to be about 18.5 feet wide, which is almost about maybe a little less than half the width that's allowable. I believe at the right of way, the maximum is 9 feet. So that would actually enlarge that curb cut to be much larger in that area, and to have a parking spot in the front yard. The zoning officer did do a memo and it talks about, you know, what these variances are. This are they have the front parking in the front yard setback. So the minimum is 25 feet and they're proposing it about 7.5 feet. The driveway width of the property line is, the maximum allowable is 10 feet and it's going to be 18.5 feet. The width at the curb, the maximum allowable is 14 feet, and again, it's going to be 18.5 feet. So just to go to the comments, again, as I spoke, that the garage is going to be visible. They are reconstructing this garage. They're putting in new walls and they're putting in a new roof. The roof now is going to be an asymmetrical gable roof. So just, you know, asking the applicant if they could kind of talk about that roof design. As HPC knows, parking is always a conversation. We've had an application recently which talked about parking in the front yard. So, you know, when reviewing this, I felt that that wide curb cut and the location of the parking is an intrusion on the property and the streetscape. The applicant's property does have adequate space on the left side of the house, and as part of their improvements to the property, they were taking off a side porch, which I assume was done. So the side yard is even larger to allow for parking to be placed on the side yard outside of the front yard. But again, I'm sure the applicant will talk about why they'd like to have it in the front yard. And just to talk about the Linden Lane neighborhood, again, talk about 19th century houses with obviously more modern houses being constructed. But even so, there still remains a relationship between the buildings and their front yard, because I believe there's only one property that has parking in the front. So there is a consistent streetscape within there. And again, if we're going to, you know, allow parking to go in the front, that's going to start changing the streetscape itself. So that's all I have, Madam Chair, and available for any questions again. Julie, you're muted.
Sorry. I guess I'll turn it over to Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Elizabeth. Again, Ryan Kennedy from Stevens and Lee for the applicants and homeowners, Tim Cantwell and his wife and growing family. Tim is here tonight. I think Elizabeth did a great job, as always, of laying out why we're here. An interesting timing here, since this is merely a suggested district. It is only things that trigger variances that get referred to you. So actually, they had a house designed, approved administratively, you know, with a zoning permit, and started working on it, and then started thinking, gosh, maybe we want to do something with the back. We'll call it a garage. Technically, I think it will remain one. And this parking issue, after they started working on this, and that triggered the zoning application and our visit here. So we're actually going to show you everything. But ultimately, the house is pretty much done. But we want you to see it in context of all the landscaping and improvements that they're doing. You'll see we went up and down the street. Today is, I guess, the day of virtual walking tours, but we'll do that. There is a lot of reasons why the parking needs to be addressed on this lot. You'll see, while this is not necessarily the standard, there are many examples of what I'll call either double driveways or front yard parking up and down Linden on both sides of the streets. Actually is quite common. And while Elizabeth is correct, there I guess is perhaps room on the other side. It would create a situation that makes it feel, unfortunately, more like some of the other properties on the street, which are more like parking lots. And it is a rare situation where one comes to the board and says, you know, we're going to ask you for a parking relief to allow some parking in the front yard, but at the same time, I think with a straight face, say that actually makes this a less car-centric and more pedestrian-friendly home by paving the compliant left side of the house and removing the entirety of all the open space for the yard. I think you'll see it endangers some of the existing trees. It removes the ability to have screening and landscaping and any really usable space for the house. So while it does fit, there are very compelling reasons specific to this house, including that I know the setback might actually say it's 9 feet, but I'll be honest, I for the photos you'll see, I drove my car there. You'll see one, I was able to get out of the car, but only because I didn't pull up into beside the house. It is too narrow to even extract oneself from a car where the way the driveway is now, unfortunately. So with that, I'm going to introduce Tim to introduce himself and explain a little bit about his family. I'm quite jealous of his ability to walk to work basically across the street, and a lot of the energy, again, not part of this application, but you'll hear actually the answer to one of the questions. Why does the roof look like that? It's because of a very advanced solar system actually that he's putting into the house that's going to run a lot of things, including his electric car. So with that, and stealing a little bit of his thunder, Tim, why don't you introduce yourself and say a few words about the need here and what you're looking to do.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you guys. My name is Tim Cantwell. Thank you, Ryan, for the introduction. My wife, Amanda, and I moved to Princeton about 3 years ago. We've been renting at a townhouse at Wiggins and Moore for the last 3 years. We've absolutely loved the town, come to call it home. We moved here from San Francisco to be closer to my wife's family, who's about an hour away. And for my work, I founded a startup, an AI-based software startup that actually helps real estate owners renovate faster. We're based at 213 Nassau Street, right across from St. Paul's, and currently have a little over 100 employees working for us. 20 Linden Lane is going to be our forever home. We looked for real estate for a couple of years here. It is a tight market, as you know, and we're very happy to have landed on that lot. My family has been growing since we've moved here. My son Jesse just turned 4. My son Jacob's 22 months. We have a baby at home. Her name's Joy. She is 2.5 months now. And my office mate and also last child is here behind us. Although he's a little man, he keeps getting lower on the totem pole with every kid. We are thrilled to be walking distance to everything. That's a big reason why we bought the house. We love to bike. We love to walk. We want to be close to everything. And as Ryan mentioned, I do walk to work. We plan to move in as soon as construction is done. If you guys have any sway over that, that would be amazing to help us get this done. We are just bursting at the seams, sharing bedrooms now with the new the third baby in our townhome. And I think Ryan's got a presentation with some photos and things like that on what we're doing.
Absolutely. And
so thank you all for hearing our case here.
So to the right is a photo that shows the kind of hidden in the back there is the garage that's going to be rebuilt that requires the variance, and then you can see wedged in there a small sedan. Unfortunately, not able to open the doors, but one could fit there, but not in a way that one could park and get it.
Through the roof.
There was Tesla has the summon feature. I think this is the one situation where it might be useful. So Tim, you thank you for the explaining and your family and the need for the home here. Unfortunately, that means a lot of car seats and getting in and out of a vehicle. I jokingly said, well, even if it was a minivan with the sliding doors, it's still not going to be able to get into that driveway and park, unfortunately.
And maybe just to mention that right on the photo thing, I would be amiss if I didn't share the reason why we're here. My wife said, I don't care what it takes. We have to see if we can get a wider spot. Jeff and Ryan tried to talk us down, and she said I would really, really, really like it. And I just think it's exactly that. It is a circus getting everyone into the car and getting that all organized and all that. My wife also had a scary incident about 18 months ago, and she was pregnant with the 22-month-old. She was 3 months pregnant. She actually got hit by a car crossing Wiggins Street right in front of her house, literally on the corner. Very scary because she was pregnant and had to go to the hospital and all that. But that is a bit of a tough street. And, cars speed down Wiggins all the time as they're headed out of town. I think Linden being a cut through in the tree streets, Maple doesn't cut through, but Linden does. It gets more traffic coming down the road. And this is just very, very high on the priority list to get wide, comfortable parking for the family. So that's the real reason why I'm here. But Brian, go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you.
So here we've got the area map here. Blue is the house. Just slightly down the street on Nassau's. The thing that I'm the most jealous of is the ability to walk a block to work, I believe, to where my mouse is here. Going to slide 4, you've got both sides of this block of Linden. We're gonna take a walk virtually in a little bit to see, but you can even from this vantage already see things that aren't even of the type that we're comparing to, but actual parking lots and lots of areas devoted to parking. But the idea of the front yard parking as the single space or as the double is, as you'll see, prevalent up and down the street for reasons that I think will make a lot of sense, hopefully, after we're done with our discussion. So I said, while it wasn't technically part of tonight's review, I think Tim and Jeff are rightfully quite proud of what they designed here. And Tim, perhaps while I've got this slide up, I was pleasantly surprised to hear a lot of the things going into the home. One of them does answer the specific question about the angle of that roof, but could you just talk a little bit about some of the environmental things that you're putting into this property? Because I don't often get to hear that, to be honest.
Happy to. The home is a technology case study, which is a partnership between my company, several other real estate technology companies, climate investment funds, and Passive House Architects, in addition to Jeff and our local construction team. The home's going to be zero energy. It's going to be zero energy for 100 years. And part of the story that we want to do here is setting the home up for another 100 years of success. We're achieving that by off-the-shelf materials from the hardware store. And we're really excited about how we've been able to put it together. The home is super insulated. It's also air sealed. It's basically like a Yeti cooler. The insulation is about 3 times thicker than you normally have. The air sealing, the window details, all of that is quite tight. The home is fully electrified, including heat pump heating and cooling. It's going to be rated by the EPA for what's called Zero Energy Ready Home, Indoor Air Quality Plus, Water Sense, HERS rating, and others. And essentially, because we've built this to be like a gigantic Yeti cooler, the energy load will be pretty low. Given the roof shape here, we can't put solar on the roof of the main structure. The roof of the garage is south facing, and we've actually calculated the amount of solar that we need to perfectly fit on the top of the garage in the back, with the little asymmetry in there. We needed the extra square footage from the asymmetry. I think you'll see it in further photos, but that solar will power a battery, will power the lights directly, can power car chargers directly, and all of that off the grid. So we're really excited about that case study, and kind of just I think the positive impact that it could have here. We really hope that it becomes a model for that aspect of it, rather becomes a model for other homes and other construction in the area.
We also had a sampling of some of the landscaping that'll be proposed for the front. This is more kind of the inspiration board, but ultimately, this is the type of plantings that you'll be having up front. Native and appropriate for our climate. So here's the, what I guess we'll call the site plan. The plantings on the left here, on the right, you see the absolutely undersized and I'll say, while possible to navigate, impossible to park in side driveway. As part of that, though, and I think importantly, both from a mitigation and an overall design perspective, there's several elements here that kind of fool the eye. One is that the existing driveway that will go towards the back is being reduced to two essentially strips with a small pad to the left of it. So the cumulative area that one would see won't look like one large parking area, which you will see up and down the street, but rather a small, almost strip plus a more traditional parking area that just is slightly offset off of that existing driveway. I think you'll also see in the front left here considerable plantings that will both screen the house and allow for a functional backyard that would not be possible if a driveway were put on the left side of the home. Here you can see where a small sedan is parked, not in the driveway area though, but in front of it where the porch is set back. And even there's really not room to get someone out of the right side of the car or a normal person who wasn't just trying to put a cart there for a photo. So it's just not possible to wedge anything other than the front of the car and fit it there. Tim, I mean, anything you want to add to that? I mean, that's just one kind of adult with a small car. Something with kids perhaps is a different story altogether.
We've scraped our car every time we tried to get it in.
Madam Chair, I happy to continue. I do see there's some hands up, but I'm also happy to stop if there are questions from the board.
All right, if you want to stop, I'm just on an iPad, so I can't see everybody and raising hands. So if you want to.
There's Madam
It would
Chair.
help if I let my screen down.
Great, yeah, I see Christine and I see David. So Christine and then David.
I just want to say that I'm sorry you have changed the character of the house from a Foursquare to an imitation Foursquare. I don't really know what to call it, because I've owned 2 Foursquares and I really think they're wonderful buildings, and it looks a lot different now. I was just wondering, I know that you have that ramp on the side there. Is that ramp going? Ramp has been taken away? Yes.
I don't want to testify, but Tim, maybe you can just confirm it. I believe it's been removed. That was a prior owner attempting to make some use of that side lot.
I was just wondering, I mean, I'm looking at the SP1 page from Jeffrey Fleischer. I'm just wondering if are you saying you can't park in the garage at all? And I was just wondering if there was a way of putting a parking space to the left of the garage. And I'm talking from experience of having a narrow driveway with the Foursquare and going to the back, and we had 2 spaces back there.
So maybe I'll put I'll reshare my screen so we can kind of look at the site plan while we're talking about this. I think the short answer, and Tim, you help me out because I'm sure you've tried this many times. I wasn't daring enough to get my car back there, but just the distance between the back corner of the house and where the garage is makes it not possible to turn adequately to get either around the garage or into it. Is that fair, Tim?
that was one of the studies that we considered when looking at options here. And you can go straight down the side of the house. You can go into the garage, but you've got to back out the way you came in. To do the required 3-point turn there, you would eat into most of the backyard. And then specifically, we ran up against the FAR limitations for the impervious. So trying to stay within all of that, it wasn't a viable solution.
I don't think there's an FAR requirement for impervious. I never heard of that. But
I think the applicant just was conflating two terms. That it's not a floor area ratio. It's just the impervious cover what they would come in.
well, because you're adding it to the front, so are you adding all that impervious to the back as well, or not? You know, when I look in the back, you've got some kind of pavers or.
Is it
I
all
don't
right if
know
I
what
answer that
that's-
question, Ryan?
Please, Tim, or sorry, Jeff, yeah.
Yeah. So we reduced the impervious lot coverage by taking off the side porch. And there's some sidewalks that were removed so that we could stay under the 400 square foot limit. If we go over the 400 square foot, we have to add a rain garden, which was something like a $40,000 expense. So we were trying to limit the amount of additional coverage that we're putting on the site. And yes, we are adding that patio in the back and the walkway to the back entry. But in other locations, we're reducing the coverage.
So you're at the maximum of 400 square feet?
We're under the maximum of adding an additional 400 square feet.
And
okay, go ahead, sorry.
I just, are you sure that you would have to have a rain garden, because there may be other ways of dealing with the stormwater?
Yeah, that's the latest requirement in Princeton.
Okay, David, you had your hand up?
I did. So I don't understand why the question is about when the car is midway back, that's the situation. I mean, it's been that way forever. Obviously, people pulled all the way to the back or they stopped before the front of the house. So this is a dramatic photograph, but I don't really understand it.
Well, I was wondering if, Ryan, you were talking about all the other examples, and were you going to get to that, or like?
We were. I'm happy to
Okay.
pause, or if we could get on to that, because to park in front of where this spot is, and by in front I mean closer. I can't move the arrow because I'm in reading view, but closer to the street would also require a variance. That is front yard, so you'll see examples of that up and down the street. But unless you were able to park behind the front line of this house, essentially, you are in need of relief, even regardless of whether it's usable or not. You need to have a parking space, and if you can't get to it, it's not a parking space. So the current condition of probably parking in front of that is something that probably should have, while it's an existing condition, I suppose, probably needed a variance or should have needed a variance, and is common up and down the street. So perhaps we can show that, though. Just before we get to that, here's the large trees on the left side of the house. This map doesn't actually show them drawn in for whatever reason, but on the left side, there's some significant old growth trees that we'd like to stay away from and not put a driveway near or through on the left side. Also, without if we were to put a driveway on the left side here, we would not be able to landscape that area. It would be entirely devoted, to a usable driveway, of course. But then, Tim, maybe we can kind of narrate this. But here are two examples on Linden of that. I guess the existing situation that perhaps David, you were just talking about. That if you can't get into the driveway, what do you have? Well, you have front yard parking. That's essentially the current condition, and what you have up and down the street. These kind of the fallacy of the side driveway that is there, I suppose, or maybe when cars were narrower, was somewhat functional. It doesn't technically doesn't count as a parking space because it's not the full width and you can't get into it. But it's just unusable, and what you end up with is what we're looking at here, just further down the block of these front yard, the necessity of front yard parking, which essentially is the current condition at the site now. We also have, we'll step through a few of these, as is partially proposed here, we'll call it the double wide, or the wider entry, and the ability to have a second front yard space. We'll have several examples of this. One thing that's different from ours is that this is essentially the full width has been paved. We're not proposing that. We're taking the right side and making it look like it's just a walkway, with the strips towards the back to better preserve the cadence or feel of green space. It makes it usable, but you don't have all of the pavement, both from a coverage perspective and visually. Again, here's several other examples further down. Linden, that same situation, the multiple front yard, in this case, again, beyond what we're proposing, fully paved space for multiple cars in the front yard. We did a study of the ones that have front yard parking and the double wide parking. Many of them have both. This is on our part of the block. We also didn't include, right next door. It's, these are more apartment style buildings that have full parking lots, while they kind of encroach onto some of the, not encroach physically, but, kind of impose themselves under the neighboring properties. We didn't flag those, but those are also prevalent on this part of Linden. And again, further up the block, the next chunk of Linden, many, many, many other examples of I'll call it the double wide, but again, without the benefit of the strip or the grass strip that we're proposing, and front yard parking situation. So
Ryan, I'm sorry. Could you go back to the not the aerial view, but I think it was 2 slides back. Yes, that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Can I just interject 2 questions here that
go ahead.
One, is it and I have to know this, but is it legal to park on the street? It is, correct?
It is. The side of the street that we're on is available for parking. Tim, you'll have to remind me. I believe it's because it's so close to Nassau. I don't know if there's a permit system on this part of the street.
Okay. But
I also know from recent HPC meetings that that those spaces could not be devoted to an individual, no matter how much we request or how.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
And when you showed the site plan, we kind of cut off the left-hand side of it. I don't, if you go back, I mean, there's a whole, I'm just not sure why. Nope.
Here's this is it.
Yeah, so that's a full one. So I'm just not sure why the parking space is not on the left side of the house, so it would not be encroaching on the facade of the house, because in the other ones you showed us were encroaching on the facade much less. Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
I guess I'm not quite sure. When you say encroachment on the side, a lot of them were entirely in front, whereas both of them, where here we've got one would be to the side and one would be
that just because they did that doesn't mean it's good or one wants to repeat it. But
I certainly agree with that, which is why we want to have one kind of offset where you'd expect to have one now and one only partially.
You wouldn't, I mean, I don't think, because it's right in front of the house, I don't think you would expect to have it there, but what is wrong with the left-hand side of the house?
So if one were to have a compliant space here, they absolutely could. It would mean they would have to be set back from the lot line, or excuse me, from both from the lot line and from the front of the house, and would essentially take up the entirety of the side yard.
Well,
And it legally would work. You could have that. The question that the zoning board will be hearing is whether that is better. It's more visible. It couldn't really be screened because of the need to have them both be side by side to fit there. It's more coverage at that location and removes the ability to both have landscaping and while you can't see it on this plan, you can see it to the left here, would encroach upon and endanger those existing trees. So
Well, that's what's not clear where the tree trunks are. I mean, are you saying you have to have them back to back parking? I mean, you have to have side by side parking spaces or nose to tail?
Well, the goal is not to have stacked parking. It's not illegal for a single family home, but it is not usable or helpful. So just like technically there are stacked spaces on the right side here that you can't get to, the goal would be to have two usable spaces, and that means that they'd have to be side to side. This is not a street. I think you heard that one wants to often back out into all the time to switch cars. So the concern would be both from a coverage perspective, visually, and in relation to these trees, to what it means to have two side by side spaces there, and that's what we're desperately trying to avoid.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there other comments? Yeah, Elric, go ahead.
You said it was an existing condition. If I understand correctly, you've tripled the amount of insulation to the outside of the house, which in fact encroached on the space for the access to the garage by broadening the house by about a foot. These are very California solutions that have been imposed on this house. I'm agreeing with Christine that the character of the Foursquare has now become, just a free for all. But in any event, we'll take it as it is.
Thank you, sir. Actually, we've not expanded the footprint further than 2 inches. There is 2 inches of insulation on the exterior. The rest of that, we use the interior space.
Okay, my mistake. But when I looked at the one drawing, it looked as if the structure was protruding beyond the foundation. Maybe that was just a mistake in the drawing. I don't know, but you could see that at the bottom. We have this problem all the time with our barns that we insulate to the outside, and if it's an existing foundation, anyway, we won't go into that. I came lately to the notion of the driveway on the other side, but I honestly think that flipping the driveway space and the landscaping could work much better than pushing everything into that fairly tight space on the right. And the other thing with an 18-foot curb cut is you're lessening the amount of space that's available for street parking. Has that been reviewed at all by the municipality?
So there would be if necessary, a street opening permit, but based on what's there, our belief is that there would not be a net loss of any street parking.
What would be disrupted to street parking? What would be disrupted to street parking is the driveway on the other side that would take out probably 2 spots off the street. And I don't know how much this matters to the commission here, but part of the reason why we wanted to buy this lot and make this our family home is because of the yard. And I think it'd be a real shame to just pave it over and put a big driveway or whatever there when it's great, usable green space. The kids can play. There's going to be a little playground set back there for them. I mean, it's a really lovely little spot to go make that a parking lot of any or driveway parking structure. I don't think that really does well for us or for the neighborhood.
But you would extend the driveway back to the side of the house?
Well, that's what Ryan and Jeff were saying. To be compliant, you would have to be past the front yard setback, right? Which is it 25 feet in this situation?
But it's not
Could be
beyond
in-
the porch line, is it?
You'd have to be behind the. I see heads shaking, so I'll let,
Yeah, it's almost in line with the front porch.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't think it would be at the corner of the house, but and if you're not going to use the garage as a garage, why do you need to have the strips going all the way to the back of the house, and then at the same time worry about the cumbersome backup on that side of the house? I don't quite get that.
I guess with the alternative arrangement, we wouldn't be making that movement ever. I guess we could consider just removing the strips as well.
That's
the sidewalk at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it bears more examination, and I do find, I'm trying very hard to embrace solar. It is the future, but I wish other solutions had been considered for the asymmetrical roof at the back. It's cumbersome, awkward, and unattractive, and it doesn't. I could see other solutions possible. Anyway, I won't go into that, but it's a disappointment.
Elizabeth, do you have your hand up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just, I know that that the applicant is saying that they feel that the landscape could not be implemented if the driveway was on the other side. But again, I believe, as Elric had said, if you flip the driveway and the landscape around, you could. And although I believe that, I'm just trying to recall from the plan, the intent is to have 2 parking spaces. That's why you want to add the additional one. So is one of them still going to be alongside the house? And then this new one in the front yard? Is that the intent? Because right now, I believe the way, I just can't tell from the way this is drawn, but it seems like if you had it along the side of the house, for one, you'd still have to move it because you've got 18.5 feet. Well, I mean, it'd be like 9 feet by 9 feet spaces right next to each other, right? So you might still have to move one of the cars to be able to have that space there.
That would be enough to have, I mean, compliant spaces in Princeton, and it's probably even bigger in most applications that are necessary. I think you'd be able to, the right car would be able to nose up almost to where the photo showed the other vehicle, and they just, as long as you were back enough, close enough to the street that you could open up the front door and get out, you would be likely that much in front of the left space on a regular basis.
Okay, and so I'm looking at the drawing and you have the 23-foot mean prevailing front yard setback. But your parking setback, is that 25 feet? Or is it according to the prevailing front yard setback?
Unfortunately, I believe it is the worst of those two.
Which is 25.
It would be the 25 feet.
Okay, so that would, even with the 2 feet, that actually still falls short of the front steps of the front porch. So part of it, if you have 2 spaces, you'd still have some that would be projecting out. If you move the driveway to the other side of the house, you could have a narrower, normal size curb cut and still allow for 2 cars to be side by side or tandem and have appropriate landscape to be able to screen it and back out. So I'm just wondering, was that an option that you thought about? I mean, the width of the curb cut is pretty extensive. It's pretty large. And
So,
even though, you know, the applicant's saying, but they have this great side yard, but it also imposes that curb cut on the public, on the neighbors in the neighborhood.
David, I know you have your hand up.
Thank you. Earlier it was described to us that this house has many incredible features that have been designed into it from all kinds of technical and environmental points of view, and that's fantastic. And it even sounds like there might even be some money or demonstration project that goes into this project, but that's another story. What I can't understand though is a house and a project that's this phenomenal, this well thought out, that I feel like once again we're kind of being backed into making a decision go ahead and do this and ask for permission later. I mean, it seems like this project, the only way it can work is if we relent on something that wasn't apparently thought of in the beginning, or was skipped over for a while. It just really has that feeling of, as a board for the town, we have to give in on what was done ahead of time. Yeah, this is kind of like we're standing on the shoulders of a lot of zoning officers that came before us and really tried to have the setback and the cars out of the way. And here we have this wonderful big investment going on here. And what it needs is for us to give in on precedent. And, you know, it's just one more time that HPC or another commission for the community has to say, oh, all right. I mean, I feel like we have no options to give them, and we have to do this, which is that's unfortunate.
Charlotte, you have your hand up.
Yeah, to David's point, I think, do we not have an option of, you know, please show us alternatives for this parking space, please? You know, we'd like to see it on the left side of the house. We'd like to, I mean, you've shown us one iteration, and there are certainly others. And I think we need to see those. I just don't, I feel extremely uncomfortable, like.
I mean, we're perfectly have a right to say to the zoning board that we'd like this applicant to explore parking on the left-hand side. I mean, that can be in our memo.
I mean, as I understand it, you're not, are you using the garage as a garage?
They're using it. You can't physically get a car in there. Is it otherwise being used
Okay,
as
so
lawnmowers and things? Yes.
So that access, that driveway to the garage is sort of a moot point. It doesn't matter, right? We're just, what they want is, Tim, what you want are 2 parking spaces for 2 cars in front of your house somewhere.
So you can
wants to keep the existing driveway where someone has
Why,
always.
why do you want to keep the existing driveway?
Well, because it extends to the street, and it's where someone has always had a car. So
we're gonna have 2 curb cuts.
But if you flip them both to the other side, I mean, that you can get rid of it.
You're exactly right. I mean, it's the question is, do they put the driveway in a completely compliant place and have it be much larger and not have a usable yard? Or
no, but nobody's talking about a driveway to that. I thought we were saying that he doesn't need a driveway to the back because the garage is not usable.
Correct. So perhaps I'm differentiating between a scenario that we would never have considered, which is putting it back to the garage, and one that we just really find not a great one, which is to park in that otherwise very usable, beautiful side yard.
But it's not the side yard, it's the front, it's closer to the street than the side yard.
Right. No, nobody's saying pull it back.
If you have just one curb cut, there's more opportunity for landscaping.
Maybe if I put a graphic up, we could say, because there is a this ultimately is an advisory exercise to the zoning board, and if we can, there are a list of asks, I suppose, with the location and type of driveway, and perhaps all of them are objectionable, perhaps some of them are, and maybe it would just be helpful to hone that down a bit, because I'm not entirely, obviously if they put it in a compliant location in what I'm describing as the side yard, we don't need any, that they could do that, maybe not tomorrow, because they need a curb cut permit. But if I put this back on the screen here, the compliant location, if it's possible with the existing tree that is here, would essentially be here on the side of the house, and what I've been referring to as the side yard. It technically is not the side yard, it's the side of the house. It would have to be in a place that is not within the side yard setback. It'd be 5 feet from the side of the
Ryan, can you put up the plan that shows a proposed site plan? Because that actually gives you that prevailing front yard setback, which is pretty close to what that parking setback is. It might give a better illustration. Yeah, but can you have one that has this whole yard? It's kind of cut off. Yeah, that's not it.
I don't know that I have that.
And again, it could be, you could have those subterranean block work configuration there with grass on top of it, so it wouldn't feel like a driveway at all for the whole area that's being used for parking.
Are you saying that would make the driveway on the right side?
No, I'd
or that
still have it
someone
on the
can do that on the left side?
Just
and
one
otherwise-
curb cut for 2 cars and enough room to be able to back either one of them out.
Right. Why do you have to pull it all the way through to the side of the house? Why can't it be, essentially parallel to the proposed parking?
Everyone else is doing it from what you say.
So maybe what I'm hearing is that that would essentially still require variance relief, because it's more
taking
in
up
front.
two spots of the street.
I don't think it requires a variance relief. I think it would be conforming. You would be behind the,
If it was behind the front line if it was behind the 25 feet,
yes.
it would be conforming. And that's not what I heard.
I mean, if it's behind the 25 feet, that 25 foot is a little bit, I can even scale it for you, is a little bit in front of the front porch. It's almost like 6 feet in front of the porch. And if you had a parking stall that might be 15, 16 feet, that actually pulls you just a bit back from where you have that wood fence shown on your site plan.
I'm sorry, I think it's shown on the site map, and I wonder maybe Jeff, if you could show the site map, or Ryan, we have the setback on there, and I don't think we're talking about the same thing.
Right, so if you pull up a proposed site plan that shows the whole property, that does show where the prevailing setback is on there.
Jeff, if you have that handy, might be a minute for me until I can pull that up.
I can share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So this line here is the mean prevailing setback, which is 23 feet, so 25 feet would be approximately there.
That's too far. Before you get to, yeah, right before you get to the steps is where 25 scales out.
So if you see that line there, that's 25 feet in the front. Yep, right at the front step.
Yeah.
Now, from this side stair to the property line, you have about 24 feet. I don't remember in this neighborhood, do you have to have a 5-foot distance for the driveway from the side
3
property?
foot for driveway, 5 for the parking area.
Right, so you would only have, well, you'd have to park beyond this side there. It, I don't,
Well, it would
tight
be,
to park cars side by side here and maintain that 5-foot side yard setback.
right, so if you had a side by side, each place would be 10 feet wide,
Right.
right, which is not any worse than what you'd have on the opposite side. with
Better.
2 parking spaces, right? And
Right.
easier to maneuver out. You wouldn't necessarily have to move a car, you know, that would be tight as we had just talked about on the right side. If that's side by side, you could have it that way and then narrow your driveway width down to 1 lane and have a normal curb cut size.
You're thoughtful people. I'm sure you can take a look at and see how this might work as an attractive and practical alternative.
Yeah, I think to the owner's point, he loses use of this side yard, which he
No,
was hoping
but
to have for his
Not
utility
behind
yard.
the, not
And
behind
then-
the steps.
And then this over in this
No,
area.
I think that's where we're having a disconnect. The front of the cars would be, could come up to, and I can't show the line here, but you need to have 18 feet back from there to where the back of the car would be.
Well,
And it's likely would have to pass by that step to fit. So it would be about halfway past that.
But that's not what
halfway
you
through
have
the
on the other side. You're showing it just in front of the porch and on the plan you brought to us.
We are, because we're seeking variance relief. Yes. So if, for example, and I'm not suggesting that we want to do this, but if you're saying that the board is much more interested in it being on that side, for example, but would consider or some amount of relief, in our mind, the options are seek variances for a plan that we think allows, one of the few open spaces or usable yards in the neighborhood to continue, or to pave it over. And what maybe I'm hearing is that there might be some support to, if it was on the left, to have it moved up towards the street a bit in a way that maybe you find is appropriate or reasonable, but that perhaps some variance relief would be appropriate or advisable to the zoning board. Otherwise, really, the compliant location is quite a bit, almost more than half front to back of that side yard area.
So,
That's
Ryan,
the point we're trying to make.
let me ask you this. I mean, I think that what the commission is looking at, is it possible to have it compliant in a space that seems to be available? If you would go for a variance relief, maybe it would be for reducing the length of the parking space. I mean, right now, I don't recall, it's been a while, is it 18 or 19 feet required? I mean, we all know that the cars aren't that long. I mean, that might be the relief versus bringing it outside that setback. I think that, that doesn't make sense because you've already got room to allow it, but maybe reducing that stall size might be more of a feasible.
There's no question. I hope no one misunderstood that there is not room for this. It is just that is in comparison to what is otherwise on the street, and the downsides is in our minds not better. It's why the only reason for bringing this application to the zoning board. I think I'm hearing that you guys are not convinced that that's better.
It's awkward.
It's really, yeah.
All right, let's go back to the main screen. Ed, I mean, yes, Ed.
Well, Madam Chair,
Oh, please, I wouldn't want that job. Sorry.
you got one tonight.
Yeah.
I have a meeting in Lawrence Township in about 5 minutes.
Oh, boy.
So I'm going to have to excuse myself. This is a review, which I can catch up with Elizabeth tomorrow on, and so is the Shabbat. So you can go ahead and do those. But I will not be available to swear in Ming. So Ming is going to have to go off until the October meeting.
Okay.
So let me ask you this, Ed, she is here. If we bring her in, can you swear her in and then us bring her back later? In your 5 minutes?
Well, yeah,
We
if
have
you
to-
want to.
We have to finish this, then we have to say like, okay, we agree that we're gonna, I mean, we have to stop this, that we can't interrupt this
Yeah.
application.
I mean, Elizabeth, isn't this the lady that knocked down the freaking garage and she's trying to get approval afterwards?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the
So let's-
urgency? You know, she wasn't here when she was supposed to be. She's not connected. Respectfully, I think we bring her back in October.
Okay.
All right, so thanks, Ed.
Good luck.
All right, thank you, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, so I think we can just agree that we're not comfortable and that we want the applicant to explore alternatives. And I think it could be that simple. You
I-
know, yes.
Madam Chair, I think that's, but not to interrupt your other members, but I think ultimately that's probably the best we'll do tonight. One thing I'll suggest though is we did stop. We have some more slides about the actual. So there were two components of this. We heard a little bit prospectively from some of the members about the design, I guess, of the rear garage building that's going to be built in the same footprint. Technically, in rebuilding that, we do need those side yard and rear yard setback variances. I'll say they're commonly granted. It's the place to rebuild an accessory structure is where it is. But technically, and maybe it would behoove us to at least go through those slides and get any comments we have on that actual structure, which is kind of a separate issue.
Okay, David, you have your hand up, and Christine, you have your hand up. Okay.
Christine
go
was
ahead.
first. Go ahead, Christine.
I just have a quick question. Do you want parking for 1 or 2 cars?
2.
All right, so if you, the way you presented it, if it's the one in the front, where is the other car going to park? Because you're saying you're not using that driveway and you can't park it in the garage. So where is the second space?
Let me put this back up and
The other car can park to the right, pull up, pull over to the right. The family vehicle is the one that would be on the left, that have unobscured access on the left side of the doors.
correct. So I'm gonna. So the one car would be parked here. The second car would be parked straddling the grass and up as far as it could before it either hits the house or gets so far up that the front door could not open to let someone out.
Don't you find that awkward?
I personally did, but I guess less awkward than not having any usable yard. It's the trade-off of downtown living. That's what the situation is now.
It's not, I mean, there's a whole yard in the back. So it.
I guess I don't understand just as like one citizen to others here, I don't really understand the intent of these. I've heard what we're doing here is a monstrosity and I'm not going to repeat all the adjectives. I think we have maintained a foursquare on an original foundation. We've maintained the interior footprints. We are thrilled to do that and to keep the character of the home and of the neighborhood while updating it for the next 100 years of serving families. This particular home has only had 3 owners in its history. The lady who last lived here raised her whole family, who was 60. The youngest was 65 when he administered the estate to us, and we're just thrilled to do that and integrate here. We added a front porch because this is a front porch neighborhood.
Yeah, no, I feel like we're getting really off topic. Like your house is built. Nobody's.
Okay, well then
That's
the
without
topic,
table, right?
the topic is we're trying to figure out how to park a family here. We're trying to do that
Right.
without taking out as much of the yard as possible, the green space and the trees, because we want that open space. It's surrounded by parking lots. The house immediately to the left has paved over the entire back lot area. It's a, you know, you can see it on satellites, and we're trying to figure out how to do that. So I'd just love to be really collaborative. We can look again at the left side. I don't think we're talking apples to apples here, and I just want to let you know we're trying to be great citizens and trying to do something that we're proud of and that the community's proud of and that our family's gonna be proud of to live here. And I
Right.
just like you to hear
It's
my heart on
also
that.
it's part of a town, right? And we're
Exactly.
trying not cars parked in the front of the facade of a house.
But 20 others have it on here, and I mean, there are double curb cuts on the street. There are front yard garages. Literally everyone is parking in the front yard, whether they have a variance for that or not. Like, we're not doing anything that's diminishing the character of this neighborhood. I think far from it. The neighbors have been thrilled. I've met all of them so many times. They come out and say the house looks amazing. It's really, really helping us. This is like Porch Fest. Our neighbors immediately across the street at Porch Fest, and even though this was under construction, they asked if they could use our porch for Porch Fest, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, it's amazing. Like, I think this is great for the block, and I just want you to hear my heart on that. Like, I don't get some of the comments and tones and stuff like that. I know you guys are doing your job and you care so much about what you're doing, and I really, really appreciate that. So I know it's coming from a good spot, but I want you to know that we're coming from a good spot too.
Yeah, no, I think,
All right, so we're I think we're kind of going around and around now, so I would suggest that we have Ed reflect, you know, basically what we had discussed earlier, and that there will be more discussion at the zoning board. We're only advising.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think that Mr. Kennedy would like to present the component of the garage because that is something that I believe HBC needs to comment on because that also has a variance.
Oh,
But
got
it's
it. Okay.
visible and it's a, you know, it's a rebuild of a structure on the same footprint. And I think
Okay.
maybe that could be incorporated into the memo.
Okay, that's fine.
So this slide shows what I guess on the right is intended to show what little of this garage structure you can see. On the left, the existing one and the rebuilt one, it's the same footprint, the same size. There is going to be a small storage loft on the right, which was kind of designed to allow for more roof space for the solar array that's planned. I think that allows the array to actually be as not, you know, it also helps that the sun points in a certain direction, of course, but would allow it to be the least obtrusive to the neighbor next door, be basically completely shielded from them, marginally higher but compliant height, of course, for the building, really that is only just being rebuilt in the same location, be used for storage and lawnmowers and other garage-like things, though Porch Fest notwithstanding, probably not music use.
All right. Are there any comments or suggestions with the garage? I can't really see because again, I'm on my iPad today, so I'm like not, okay, Christine. And then Elric.
I'm thinking about it. I should have erased that.
Okay, Elric?
Yeah, just as a thought, it's the asymmetricality of it that is jarring because it's really unlike the existing house and a lot of the other things, except for that one with the two angles down the street. Just have you considered on the south side toward Nassau Street, having a porch which would allow you to expand the roof to the point where you get the length you need for the solar panels, and you provide an extra, if it's going to be more like a playhouse or entertainment space or whatever, the porch would be something of an asset in that backyard. And maybe some of the paving that you have now immediately behind the house or to where the present drive goes back could be encompassed in that plan. But I think it would be less awkward on the as a component of the property.
Yeah, just to answer that question, there's no more FAR allowed on this property. It is maxed out. So we couldn't even add a pergola if we wanted to. So to answer that question, and we can't put solar panels on the house itself because of the roof configuration with the dormer.
Right, I understand that.
Right, okay. Any other comments about the garage? Elizabeth, you got your hand up?
Oh, sorry. I guess I just wanted some consistency with the drawing. The ones on the plan kind of show a cross barn, and the one that you had, Ryan, that you put up, those doors are a little bit different. Is it just kind of still up in the air as far as what design it is?
The original ones say owner to specify. I think.
I did
since
see that.
specified, that they would be, Tim maybe just confirmed that they would be that later, more like what the rendering shows, the
Okay, just wanted to,
with the lights and kind of the swinging barn rather than the sliding type of barn. Is that right, Tim?
Thank you.
That's correct.
Okay, any other comments? I don't think there's really any trouble with the garage, given the footprint. So I think that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you everyone for your time tonight in hearing this, and appreciate the the comments you can pass by for zoning. So thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you as one citizen to others. Thank you guys for doing your job so diligently. I know you're taking great care of the town, and it's a beautiful place to live. So I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Hey,
Thank
Ryan?
you.
Thanks for coming in.
Ryan?
Thanks for moving here from San Francisco.
Absolutely. Happy to.
Do you know when you're going to be at the zoning
I
meeting?
believe there's a hope. It's a very full agenda, but it's a hope that they get to us next week.
Next, okay, I just want to know so I can talk to Ed.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you. Oh, Christine, do you want a break?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. Can we take a 5-minute break?
Yes.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I forgot.
You hear me better?
Okay.
Okay, so this is 15 to 17 Edwards Place. Elizabeth, do you want to just go over your memo real quick?
Yes. So this is going to be simple, but I'm just going to do a summary because there are commission members that were not present for any of the previous applications on this. So Rabbi Eaton and Webb has filed an application on behalf of Chabad Lubavitch on campus Princeton, Inc. to install rooftop solar panels on sections of the historic building and on the rear addition. The owner of the property is Chabad Lubavitch on campus Princeton, Inc., which Rabbi Eaton Webb serves as president. Chabad is a nonprofit religious organization that supports the Princeton University Orthodox Jewish student community. The project site is identified as 1517 Edwards Place and is further known as Block 4101, lots 42 and 43 on the Princeton tax map of the former Princeton Borough. The site lies within the Mercer Hill Historic District of the Municipal Overlay Zoning Map and is in the State and National Register of Historic Places, Princeton Historic District. This property is also identified as type 2 in the historic overlay. And this application was submitted as an administrative waiver. So I'm not going to go over the history of the application, if that's okay for everyone. I did send the link for people who want to read about it, but really this is a bit independent. The application had an approval originally in 2001, I believe, which was to the zoning board, where they had additions, modifications to the structure, which was approved. HPC also approved it or supported it and gave recommendations. There was a resolution for a garage demolition, which HPC had also approved. 2022, the applicant came back in to increase the height of the rear stair tower, which had to accommodate larger equipment, which they did not want to put on the exterior, so they enclosed it to be part of the building. Again, HPC also supported this amended change. So now the applicant is returning to request solar panels on the central portion of the historic building roofs and the roof on the rear addition. And the location is going to be on the flattest part of both those roofs. However, on the historical part of the roof, their structural engineer advised that the historic roof's wood frame and rafters cannot support this weight. And so therefore, they're proposing two separate steel frames, one which will be added to the interior and installed as part of their addition that's taking place right now. And the outer frame will be another steel structure that the solar panels will be attached to. So this steel exterior frame is about 12 inches above the roof line, and then the solar panels, which is another 6 inches, will bring that height to about 18 inches. The building height will be 22 feet, which is still below their 35 feet maximum allowable building height. So there's no variance required there. Just to clarify about the application, I know that originally the application came in and it was believed that they needed a variance because the new solar ordinance talks about that the solar panels cannot be more than 6 inches above the roof line. However, that is applied only for residential properties. So when the zoning officer had looked at this, he had determined that this is not residential, although Rabbi Webb lives here with his family. It is a religious institution owned by Chabad, so he had determined that there was no variance required with this. So just to skip down to the general comments. So the solar panels will not likely be seen from Edwards Place. The building is very high. The pitch is such that it's not going to be visible. However, if you go along Alexander, there is a slope there. And if you're going southbound from the north, from Nassau Street, you will be able to see part of it. To the extent how much is unknown. But if you walk there, you can see the addition on the rear. So there's going to be panels on that. And then there are going to be panels on top of the central part of the
I think you mean
historic.
University Place, not Alexander.
I'm sorry, University. correct. And then the other comment in here is, and this was a discussion the chair and I had when we were viewing this application, is we were wondering if the applicant had ever considered community solar on the building. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, let me turn it over to Kathy, because I think you might have some slides.
Right, I can quickly go through some slides. Can you hear me better now?
It's so.
Oh, I'm surprised, okay. Well, hopefully we can go through. I've got a screen share. I know it's all late. Thank you so much for everyone squeezing us onto the agenda since we're under construction. We really appreciate it. I know it's all late for all of you, so we'll get right to it. I want to start with the location map just to get you oriented because there seems to be a little confusion about Alexander or University. This is the red dot right in the center here is the building we're talking about. This is University coming down here, and Alexander, you really don't have any view of the building from that. The application shows this is what we have under construction right now. So just to let you know, and Elizabeth gave a nice summary of what we're looking to do. A small clarification, with the steel frame on the interior has already been added as part of our renovation when we converted it from a two-family home to single use. And so therefore we didn't need to modify what was on the interior, but we can work off of that and provide this roof frame will allow for the attachment of the solar panels. We did look into the community solar based on Elizabeth's comment very briefly, talked to Sustainable Princeton today, reviewed the presentation that they gave to you all on July 17th. And it did talk about the advantage of solar versus rooftop solar. And it did mention that for rooftop solar, it's more beneficial because there's a potential for it to make more money. You're eligible for rebates and incentives. You have the potential to increase your value, and it increases the resiliency. So we are coming to the board because we would prefer to go to the direction of solar panels than it is to join a community solar. With a sketch of what the panels are, where they're located. This is a roof plan. These 6 items around the perimeter are dormer windows. This is the front of the building. This is a nice mansard roof. So these are all slope roofs. This is the flat part that's existing on the structure, and we're proposing 21 panels here. Also have a new rooftop dormer at the rear, and we're proposing an additional 7 panels there. It was a little bit tricky
Excuse me.
for construction. Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt. What, in that last slide, what
Yes.
was the front of the building?
Right down here is the front of the building.
Thank you very much. I'm not real good with diagrams. Thank you. Sorry.
This is a view of the front of the building, and you'll see that the solar panels are proposed just for the flat section, which really is very difficult. I'll show you from some photos to see from the street. And this is the side view from University Place.
Okay.
And this is the solar panels on the flat part of the high part of the roof, and then extending down the rear dormer at the back. Building height is currently 32 feet. I think Elizabeth might have mentioned 22 feet. It's 32 feet. The height in the zone is allowed to be 35 feet, so we're well below that. And when we add the solar panels, we're anticipating that the top will be 33 feet 4 inches, so still well below the 35-foot maximum for our zone. This is a tricky detail that our structural engineer helped us with to relieve any weight on the existing roof. And here we have some steel beams going up in a 5-inch frame, and the panels on top with the sloping roof beneath it. So that's where we came up with approximately 18 inches of additional height to allow us to install this on the historic structure. This is from this company that's going to be providing the solar panels. They did a little rendering as well, and they calculate that it will cover 92% of the facility's estimated electric use. We have fairly high electric use because it's a pretty intense structure, and this should cover 92% of it. These are just a picture of what the panels look like and what the frame looks like. This is a close-up of where we've taken the pictures to get you oriented so we can take you through it. In the center right here, this is the existing building. Over on this right side is University Place with the parking lot. Here's the new store. And this is the dead end alley, which is Edwards Place. So we did a photo from the very front of the house across the sidewalk, from the kind of the left side of the house, depending how you're oriented, and the right side of the house. There's another photo from this top corner, which is as you're coming down University, which is the area that Elizabeth is concerned about. What it looks like as you pass this building, and when you first get a view of it. We did another view from here and one more from that location. So here we are from the front of the building, and you can see that it would be very difficult to see anything on the flat roof, which is set back behind, you know, that ridge line, once you're standing on the sidewalk. This is from the left side. Again, we're talking about beyond all these dormers back on the flat part. This is from the right side, similar. This is what Elizabeth was alluding to. This is you're coming down University Place. You're on the sidewalk here, and you're looking across. It's about 175 feet to our building, and that is what you'll be seeing back in the distance with the dormer on the top, which I think you can see my cursor, and the flat part above it. This is what it looks like from the corner of University of Edwards, looking at the building. And the last view we did is just straight across, just across the parking lot. So that was my brief summary. Obviously, I'm happy to go through anything in more detail that wasn't clear. I know it's late, but I wanted to see, and I don't know, Rabbi Webb, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think you did a great summary per always. Kathy is the most perfectionist person in this town, and we are thrilled to have her as our architect. And so thank you so much. That's 99% of my comments. The only comment is on the community solar versus the non-community solar. There is another aspect to this, which is because we are a community organization, we kind of like the idea of students being aware that we have solar panels and kind of like letting people know that this is an important thing for you to think about when you grow up, when you have your homes and whatever you'll do in the future. And while the community solar would have some sort of cost saving, it wouldn't have that sort of performative aspect. But other than that, I think everything is just great.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, Leighton.
Just one question, and I'm still in a serious learning process. Are your solar panels facing north?
They're relatively flat. I mean, it's on a flat roof, right? And the trees are not taller, so we've got very good solar orientation there. So it's more south facing, but again, most of them, 21 of them are going on a flat roof. And that works very well for.
I asked because the pitch from the front, when you said it wouldn't be seen, looked like it was pitching, toward north. That's why I asked, but thank you.
Just to clarify, they are not going on that pitched roof that you're seeing. They're going above the pitched roof on the center flat section of the building. So you're seeing the pitched roof, but that is not where they're going.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Elizabeth, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. So I just want to know, typically with solar rooftop panels, there is exterior mounted equipment boxes. And I'm just wondering if you could tell us where that might be. We always like to have it on the back or the rear part of the side yard, and also for everything to be painted to match the building itself.
You're catching me off guard. I wasn't aware there would be any additional equipment. I hadn't heard about it. If it does, we can certainly put it on the back side of the building and paint it to match the color. I thought everything was going to be contained within the building, but I can get back to you on that.
Okay, yeah, because typically they do have to have it on the exterior and then they hook it back into where their electric box is. But, you know, maybe there can be something else worked out since you're doing renovations at this point.
A good question. All right, any other comments, opinions, suggestions? Elizabeth?
I just want to ask, so Kathy, when you talked to Sustainable Princeton and you also talked about that community solar, did they talk about if they gave any, if you had solar on your roof, can you still sign up for community solar? And do they give any type of, is there an advantage for like a nonprofit community type facility?
I didn't mention any advantage for nonprofit community. No, they didn't mention that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it'd be interesting to find out. We really talked mostly, almost 100% about residential. So we didn't even get into commercial or, you know, institutional situations. So maybe we can have her back to talk about that. As far as the appearance goes, I mean, I was really satisfied that the front facade isn't affected at all by the solar. That was my big concern, and I don't see it being an issue at all. Are there other concerns or issues with the solar panels?
When you look at it from the facade, is that elevation set back at all from the crest of the roof where it goes from the pitch to the flat roof, or is it right on the edge there?
The question is 6 feet back from the front of the roof.
So it really
From
is.
where the break is, from the slope part to the flat part, we had them set at 6 feet back to keep it well back, so you can't, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to see from the
Thank
front.
you. Thank you.
All right, any other, I don't see any other hands up. Let's see, anybody else? Because if we're satisfied, somebody can make a motion and we can be done. All right, Elric.
I make a motion that we can be done.
Okay. Okay, so I assume it's a motion to approve? Yeah. Okay, and is there a second? Oh, Christine is seconding. Okay, I think we'll do a roll call vote on this.
Okay. Let's see. Mr. Shatskin,
Yes.
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Mr. Shore,
Yes, please.
He's back.
Ms. Capizoli.
Yes.
Okay, can I call roll with the other two? Because we're at 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Lewandowski,
Yes.
Ms. Friedman.
Yes.
Wow, so it was worth waiting for. Well, thank you, and thank you, Kathy, for doing those mock-ups, because I think that really kind of took care of all the issues.
Thank you very much, everyone. We hope we don't have to come back to you again on this building. It's already been enough. You're getting tired of us, I know, but we appreciate all your effort and all your help.
Well, good luck with the construction, and
And your microphone.
yeah, and you need a new mic. Okay, all right,
Okay,
thank you
very
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great night. Thank you. Okay, I think we're at public comment. No, we're at the Princeton Master Plan.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, did you guys want to say anything? I did see your memo and I did see the draft.
Well, we were like horses coming down to the, to the final, I don't know what it's called, but anyway,
Review.
it was crazy last week, and we met Friday morning, and we still had to finish everything by 5 o'clock and get it to the planning board subcommittee by 5 o'clock. And it was a hard job, actually. And
Yeah.
I think everybody, I mean, it was really enjoyable, for me at least, working with Roger and David. And I think we all had an education. We did site visits with David was bringing us to buildings that we didn't even know existed. Mostly modern buildings, but not all. And then it was a lot of writing, a tremendous amount of writing. And I don't know what they're going to do with it, quite frankly. I hope that they don't start to fuss with it.
Well, David, you want to say something?
I just wanted to say that I was the lightweight on the team. The other three did a lot of writing, a lot of research, a lot of corrections, a lot of printing out of paper, and some fun wordsmithing, some word breaks and pronunciation on various names and things around Princeton and how we all heard how they're said and how they're not. And then also, invoking the image of Elric, day and night, but also gave me a good opportunity to reach out to Wanda Gunning and just kind of let her know that we were working on this. Did she have any input? Unfortunately, there wasn't much feedback that way, except for her husband saying that she loved being asked, even though, and that was important to us. I just can't get over the document that was created. And I just can't imagine what the other contributors to the master plan update, what their groups wrote. I'm kind of like, it makes me think of like a school project where I know ours was excellent. I think we're going to get an A. But I'm curious about what the others are doing.
It reminds me of when the two entities were united a dozen years ago, or whenever township and borough joined, and it was HPC that got ahead of that whole process by comparing the two different ordinances and streamlining it into one. And this seemed very much in the same vein. And I think that I hope the rest of the municipality appreciates that. Thank you for everything you did.
I think it's 1,000,000 times better than what we started with. Obviously back in 94, whenever the township did their master plan, there's been so many changes since then, and the borough has tried to keep, update, but this is the first time I've seen it all together. It's really impressive.
Roger, do you have anything that you want to say?
Well, yeah, it was a good process, and I did learn a lot and enjoyed working with everybody. I'm just a bit concerned that seem to be working in some kind of vacuum. We really don't have a sense of how this is going to be. We've asked in our memo to be engaged in any discussion of our portion of the master plan, our element, and we really don't know to what degree that will be received. So I would not like to see this good work be dismissed in any way.
Well,
true.
Or minimized.
The consultant did absolutely nothing except to ask like 5 questions. That's it. And we had to spend a lot of time answering those questions. We gave them, I think it's so comprehensive that it should be kept the way it is. And one thing that bothered me, Elizabeth, didn't you say that Justin had his last meeting with the subcommittee on Monday?
That's what he told me when I last talked to him. And that's why he says, but I will send it out if I get it by end of day Friday. And that's why I was like calling and texting everyone, I need it before 5 o'clock.
You know, I
No,
mean,
because I didn't want, because he says if he didn't get it out there, he couldn't guarantee that they were going to look at it. And I just didn't want all that effort to go wasted, because it was a lot of time that, you know, that we had all done together collectively to really pull it together. I mean, yeah, and I, you know, honestly, I just don't think that they understand, and I don't think that Justin does either, how much work it is when they say, well, you know, give us more detailed information on this and the date of significance. Well, it's not something we just pull out and have. We got to go research it. You know, what is it? What's the district area? What are these properties? Okay, what are their ages? You know, and that typically is done when you do a nomination report. You know, I mean, you saw how many different districts that were added, thematic districts as well, which included so many properties. And you know, as the memo wrote, I mean, we just don't have the resources, but you know, the amount of time that was allocated, I think it was a phenomenal effort by the subcommittee, how much they did to be
you
able
know
to
what,
do that.
the other thing was that they said, oh, this is too long, but then give us much more information on all these properties. So of course it got longer. I mean, you know, it seems like no matter what we did, it doesn't satisfy them. And they didn't do anything. You know,
Right, I mean, you guys did, I mean, 5 times the amount of work any consultant could have done. So I feel like it's a great document. I think you guys should be really proud of it. And Elizabeth, have you had any feedback from Justin, or
Not
do
yet.
we
My
know?
understanding is that they are the committee has all this week to look at all the components that they received. And then Julie, I think that, you know, I think they're going to the planning board.
Yeah.
When is it, like early October? So
Yeah, sometime in October.
but they're going to take everything they received and then rewrite it for a new draft for them. So
Oh.
they're not going to see what HPC has provided unless they keep all of it, which I don't think they are, because it's a large document. That's why I'm hoping if they do keep it, they just say, okay, if you want to reference that, look at this appendix E or F or G or whatever, you know, so they have reference. And I understand why they said they need more information, because, you know, they don't know the history. They don't know, okay, if you put like 120 Rosedale, what does that mean to them? It doesn't mean anything. So they need reference to understand, should we keep it or should we not keep it? But again, it did require research.
Well, I will let you know as soon as I get any materials from the planning board or any communication. I will let you know what they've given me, what I've got, you know, so we can keep everybody up to date. David?
Just to make one more point, is that it wasn't just a dump of all the kind of cool buildings in town that might want to be on a district sometime. We did ask for or talk about that we wanted to do more outreach in general education about preservation to bring an awareness level back up that some of us feel like was prevalent a number of years ago, and not just in Princeton, but kind of everywhere. But that if we want to, you know, have our resources respected, we have to get kind of a general appreciation of preservation again. So that was one of our themes. And then unfortunately, one of our themes had to be, shall we all say, did we all see the date stamp time on the memos this morning? 3:52 a.m. We need some help.
Right.
We need some help.
I know, Tom and I have to get together and do our PowerPoint. Leighton, you have your hand up?
We put that in. It was in our memo too, because it's ridiculous what Elizabeth has to go through. You know, it's
It's ridiculous most months. And then Elizabeth was at every single meeting with us, did all the kind of rewrites and updates with everybody else, and then had to do her reports for the different, you know, boards that she serves. I think on Friday she said, oh goody, I get to start my 6 reports or something now.
Yeah, so Leighton, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to I'm gonna be brief, and you know, the retreat and tonight's meeting, you know, if you just look at kind of the 4.5 hours we spent now together over this past time, I think to me sheds a lot of light. One, I think what you've come up with, thank you to the three who put their heads together to put forward that document. It is long, but it is a tour de force representation of the members and the collaboration of the people on this board. My job as liaison is to make sure, as you've referenced, that it does get the requisite amount of attention paid to it. And I will do my job, I promise you that. You know, there's, as I said at the retreat, there's a significant balance that goes on. And the more and more time I spend with this board, the more I appreciate and understand the significance of our history. And, you know, being African-American and born here, I look at history from sort of first from a cultural perspective. And now I'm coming around to how the cultural perspective and the streetscape and the architectural perspective all blend to make the whole story. And I say that to say that tonight in our meeting, I don't know what you took from it, but what I took from it was a distinct uncertainty, even between members of the board, on how to move forward on not one, but two projects. And to me, my takeaway is this is how difficult managing history and preservation is. That young man and his family came here from San Francisco, and you know, he's got some great technology ideas that is pretty much the future of housing, if you will. And what we're trying to do is protect the history of housing. And they bumped heads tonight in a beautiful and magnificent way. And it's fascinating to me how this group has to weave and wove the new and the old. And guess what? Your job's getting ready to get a lot harder. because
don't say that.
Man from San Francisco, he's asking to inconvenience us a little bit, and I think he referenced that. And to me, what that would be really is kind of an inconvenience. I'm just saying from a personal perspective, I was real torn by both discussions today, and I could have fallen on either side. So, and I just want to share that with you because your job is really difficult, and my colleagues have got to listen to you. And what I'm saying tonight was the juxtaposition of why some of my colleagues would be like, listen, we're looking toward smart growth in the future. And some are like, but wait, we also got to protect the past. When you're an elected official, you're sort of bent sometimes is to move to, you know, to grow, because that's what's happening. So I'm just talking around in circles maybe, but I'm saying I appreciate what you're doing, but your job is hard and it's getting harder. And I want you to appreciate the balance that we as elected officials have when you get new, excited people, which is what we want, to come to Princeton and to find a home and to raise a family, and they haven't asked. And then we say no because history ain't on your side. But the future is on everybody's side. So I'm gonna stop talking now. I probably have said a lot, haven't said anything, but I know I've given all of y'all something to think about.
Well, we appreciate it, Leighton. We really do appreciate it. And having a liaison that's as engaged as you are is a blessing to our commission, because we need your representation. So
and I'm gonna fight not for you, but for us. I'm on this team, and I'm gonna fight for us.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We appreciate it. So and I appreciate all the work in the master plan. It just goes without saying. I just want to make sure in the public comment, do we have anybody from the public that wants to talk? Because I feel real bad. I missed that public comment in the first application. So
Julie, just one more quick thing on the master plan. There are a bunch of meetings in town. A bunch of them are on campus for some reason. But I would recommend that to look at the schedule. It's on the website. If you can make your way to one, just to sort of take the temperature and get a word in, it might be helpful.
I think tomorrow morning, I think they're gonna be at the Princeton Senior Resource Center.
And Leighton, they were at the Arts Council on
Saturday.
Saturday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they were at the, Justin went to the Witherspoon Street Presbyterian Church where he had a Spanish interpreter. He's doing a very good job of, being visible and being accessible.
Right. Yeah, I think he is doing a good. He's trying to get to those places where people usually won't come out. You know, so he's going to them.
Well, that is wonderful. I will definitely try to go. Okay, any hands up for public comment?
No hands are up.
Oh,
Cha-Ching has her hand up.
yes.
Sorry,
Hi.
I just want to add, tomorrow's listening session for master plan is 9 to 10 o'clock at NASA Inc.
Okay.
Oh,
Tomorrow,
Yes,
9 to
just for
10.
anybody who's interested. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, thanks for that correction. Good looking out.
Yeah.
And by the
All
way,
right.
Gia is a blessing in that department. Thanks for all that you do.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. I think we're done. Any motion to adjourn?
And I have the
Okay.
next to last word.
I know it's past your bedtime, Alric. I'm sorry.
Got it.
All right. We really
Bye,
appreciate
friends.
it.
And we're getting together next Monday? No, no.
What?
I don't.
I was like, what?
No, I think we have a break. All right. We'll see everybody later. Maybe at one of these sessions, I'll see somebody there.
Take care,
Okay.
everybody.
No more
you.
Zoom. No
Joy.
more Zoom.
David Shore, I'm gonna call you tomorrow. I gotta talk real estate.
No more Zoom. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
No, Jason.
Bye.